Of course, he's inviting people up.
Yeah, I'm inviting people up.
There you go.
Thank you so much. Be good to refute apostolic succession. I don't know if you'd want to refute apostolic succession. I'd have to look into Galatians 1:1 to see exactly what the verse says. Give me 1 second. But I don't think that that's a. It depends as to what apostolic succession you want to, like, you're holding to or arguing against. But I don't think apostolic succession is something that even as a Protestant you'd want to disprove per se. Um, uh, Hello.
Yo, hello. What's up?
What's
Sorry. Wait. Okay. So, the main reason I would say I don't believe in God at all, is because most people say, like, most, like, simple, especially Christianity, they say like God is all good and all powerful, right? And I don't see a way where an all powerful and all good and all loving God would have like infants getting bone cancer. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how like an all loving God will allow an all loving and all powerful God will allow that to happen.
Um. Okay. So it says I was just reading into this like literally right before I hopped on live. So I hate that you immediately asked this question. Um, but all right. So in regards to like a problem of suffering, right, or things that we would view as evils, there's different ways in which these things are looked at and understood in a Christian paradigm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one, I think an important thing to understand is like when Christians talk about evil or like what you're talking about, we would define that as a privation of good. So, like the situation that you're talking about is a evil. What's the deal, Big Gravy? It's a evil, like children dying of bone cancer. So, for all loving God, we wouldn't say that God like wills those things to happen. Um, that's not something that we would say that God does. We would say that God allows or he permits those things to happen for a greater good. Even though that good might not be 100% understood by us, we would say that God allows certain things for a greater good.
Well, I would say that God does did create it and would allow it because he fine tuned the whole universe in such a fine way where he allows infants to get bone cancer before they're even able to comprehend anything.
Yeah, so for that, right? We wouldn't say that that thing is good in itself, but his allowance is going to be for a greater good. So we wouldn't take like what's the word? It's like private situations, right? Or isolated situations. Um like micro level situations where we see a thing that we would consider as evil that God permits and then say that this can now be attributed or understood in light of the whole. So we would say that God permits certain quote unquote evils for the greater good of the whole. So for example, like the baby dying, even though like we might not fully understand the greater good, it could be that baby being united unto Christ or the the sanctification of the parents and the community through that suffering and coming together could be the greater good that God permits through that child suffering. So there's certain greater goods that would come out over the whole, um, that we would say that God like permits, but we wouldn't say that God wills these things to happen.
Well, I would say like even if I give like a greater good to an like a quote unquote evil, I wouldn't say that would still make the thing not just as bad. Because if I were to
Yeah.
like strangle your dog and then give you a new puppy and then give you $1 billion, I still committed that was still a terrible thing I did.
Yeah, so
So
we're not notice I'm not saying that the thing that's happening is good. It would be a quote unquote like bad thing or a type of evil. It would be a natural evil as a result of the fall, right? So I'm not saying that these things are good, but I'm saying that God doesn't will those things to happen. He permits certain things to happen for a greater good. So I'm not saying that that thing in itself in isolation would be identified as a good.
well, I don't understand where there could be a way where this child getting, I mean, because like I understand that we can't understand the full picture because in a Christian viewpoint, God is omnipotent. So like obviously He understands the full picture about this happening, but I don't
Mhm.
see a
So,
way
like for
where.
example, because I mean, you could just put any evil in that place, like, and the evil is just gonna get more egregious. So, for example, when a lion unalives a gazelle, right? That's an isolated, quote unquote, evil that God permits for the greater good of the entire ecosystem that's at play, right? Now, obviously, like from the micro level, you might not understand all that which is going on, but it's the same reason as to why, like um the planet Earth filmmakers are sitting there and watching these things happen instead of helping those, is because this is actually a greater good for the rest of the ecosystem. Or
Well, I would say like the thing is like I understand that like some of these evils would help the betterment of the ecosystem because obviously you need these bad things to
but that's what I'm
happen.
saying. So you're in an understanding. That's what I'm saying. You're in an understanding to where you can understand the greater good in regards to nature, right? And then there's certain evils that happen to us where we are the antelope or we are the gazelle, and we might not understand the full scope as to the things that are happening and the things that are being permitted. But the Christian response would be that those things are being permitted for the greater good. Like, for example, when I think this is a better online example, when Christians are unalived for their faith, right? And they become martyrs. Um, that's a evil thing that like God permits, but the greater good is going to be the sanctification of themselves as well as the others who have watched them die for their faith. So we
Well,
might not understand it in that time, but God, who sees all things at one moment, understands all the greater good that comes out of the things that he permits, and he'll permit that thing for the greater good to come about.
well, yeah, He could like permit these things, these evil things to happen for the betterment of it, but He's the one who created these systems and He's the one who created how like these systems work. He like an ecosystem example, like we are talking about how an ecosystem functions and how a lion has to eat a gazelle for the betterment of the ecosystem. He's the one who created the ecosystem and made the ecosystem so where that has to happen and how this gazelle has to go through suffering for it just living.
Yeah, so what we would say is that that's more of a corruption of his creation. So the way in which it was created at first, like we wouldn't say that like lions was eating gazelles. So like the way in which it ends, according to, because you're doing the internal critique, right? So the way in which it ends, like if you read the end of the Bible, it says like the lion lays down with the lamb. Like there's peace, even in between the animals. But as a corruption of nature through the fall of man, things that like animals have turned on each other and they start to eat each other in order to survive. And same with humans. Our nature has been corrupted as well.
Well, I don't. Another point where I would have a contention with it is how animals, how how when man fell, how these animals and these billions of different species had to go through years of suffering and go, and how 99% of all animals to ever exist are extinct. Like how man fell, so now not only do men have to suffer, but so does every single living creature
Yeah,
because of
so
the mistake of Adam and Eve.
yeah, so it would be like, are you in America?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, if the dude in the office decides to like go to war or says, hey, we stop in all grocery stores, right? His decision has an effect on everybody who's under his authority. So Adam and Eve were like the king and the priest of all of creation. And when they fall, everything that's under their authority suffers because of the decisions that they make. Now, the decisions that they make corrupts their nature. So when they have kids, they pass their nature down in the same way that, like, if my mother were to be doing substances, right, while she was pregnant with me, the defects or the corruption that she's allowing and intaking into her body will then be passed down unto me. And now I bear the effects of the decisions of the one who came before me and had power and authority over me. It's like that. So what God does is he allows that corruption to take place to fix the corruption even under the paradigm of these free creatures having free will. And in them having free will, I can fix them and still unite them back unto me so that free creatures freely choose God and are made perfect.
So, but these creatures that can't choose God are being and don't know about God, that are not like coherent and can't understand this, and they're being forced to go through torment and torture because of the mistakes of their like ruler in a way. I don't understand why God would allow this to go. Why would allow these creatures to go through this, because He's the one who set up this system to where they would be tortured for the mistakes of their ruler. I don't understand why an all-loving God who loves everything, because I don't think you, if you were to rule over like your loved ones, you would put them in unnecessary torment when they can't even understand you.
I
Or
don't.
not. They
Yeah.
well, like how they would put you in like this torment. You want to like torture your loved ones if they didn't know you in a way.
Who? What do you mean they didn't know you? Who didn't?
If your loved ones didn't know who you are, like how these animals don't know God because it's like some creatures just aren't conscious at all and aren't coherent. They only can feel pain as a stimuli to their body. So imagine like you have your loved ones obviously, but they don't know who you are. You want to put them through torture just because they don't know who you are, and you want to put them through torture for that.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
I'm just kind of saying like if you were to have someone you love, you wouldn't put them through torture because you love them.
Yeah. So my parents love me. They put me through situations that felt like torture for the time that I later felt like, oh my God, I'm really appreciative that you did that for me. So the torture is going to be on the side of the one who's going through it and their perspective. And you might not understand all that which is being done actually isn't torture. For example, like I went to the gym the other day and we started out with doing like 300 reps of different things as a warm up. That was torture, bro. Like, what are we doing? And then we're moving on to another set. But it's like, okay, in the middle of that situation, I'm not able to understand all of the benefits that will come about. And it's in like manner of like when my parents would put belt to ass or something like that, right? Like when I'm acting up and my parents have to discipline me, at that point, it feels like torture. You feel me? But this discipline or the consequences or me paying for the consequences for my action help me understand and um go through life in a better way. I'm not able to understand it as I'm going through it, right?
Okay.
But it helps me understand, okay, I need to have more discipline. I can't just do the things that I just want to do freely because it affects others or it affects myself in a negative way. And I'm taught this lesson through the consequences that came about my action that felt like torture for the time. It teaches me boundaries. And in like manner, when God creates these free creatures, um, and he wants them to freely choose the good. When they choose that which is bad, they inherit the consequences of that which is bad, and it teaches them boundaries. My friend, he gave a good analogy yesterday, when he was on live, and he said that, like for example, if I just went around like chopping people's legs off and nothing happened, like I never went to jail, like no one ever really screamed, I would just think that stuff like that is fine, that it's okay. because there's no like negative consequences to like kind of help me learn boundaries in this corrupted world. So stuff like that, certain pain, certain evils, and things like that are allowed as a teaching mechanism, which brings about a greater good. Although for the time being, it might seem like torture.
Well, yeah, I can understand. Like, so I do agree that some suffering is permitted for you to have growth, but I think it's different for, let's say, where like a deer is stuck, like a baby deer is stuck in a forest during a forest fire and it dies from burning to death. They don't learn anything from that because they aren't they get they're not alive anymore. So they aren't going through some learning process for their inner self
Yeah, it's
because
not. I'm not saying that every individual thing needs to be able to understand its reason for its suffering. I'm saying that all suffering or evil is permitted for the greater good. So, for example, right, like a forest burning down, a squirrel's home is going to be burned down in the midst of that forest being burned down, or animals are going to die in the midst of that forest being burned down. But some of these things, like forests being burned down, work to the greater good of the forest being rebuilt. Like there's certain things that we're able to understand that over time these things actually work out to a greater good. There's some things that we understand. That's not to say that we'll understand every single thing, but we can see, and from a Christian perspective, trust that God's not going to permit things that he doesn't have the power to bring about the greater good of.
well,
So
like what.
if you bring I would agree that if you bring everything down to the micro level, then you're just going to point out things that seem evil or that are evil that you don't understand the greater good. But if you zoom out, then I would say that you'll be able to understand the full perspective of the situation. Which, like, okay, there's no saying that the decomposing of this deer isn't good for the soil, which is good for the microbes, right? Like, there's no telling that this is actually good for the overall environment, although it may be seen as bad for the deer.
Well, like where so firstly, when you talk about how it could be greater good for like the forest and the environment in general from this happening, like
Mhm.
for the forest being rebuilt, that's a good thing. But I don't think an all just God would allow these animals who don't get to experience the positive side of this forest burning down because they're no longer alive or they're forced out of their home, and other stuff happens to them.
Well,
I
that's
don't.
to say that like these animals, one, like God doesn't do anything to reconcile these animals, which I don't think the scripture supports. Like in the new heaven and new earth, there's going to be animals. So like these beings can be like reconciled unto God for his own
Well,
purpose, or
yeah.
these beings are made for the purpose of teaching us certain lessons. So like when we see evils and things like that happen, it reminds us of the good that which we desire.
But I don't think reconciling for the like deer that get by allowing them into like heaven or something after they get unalive due to the forest fire or something. I don't think reconciling them with that is fair because they firstly weren't even allowed to get to know Christ, and then they were and then they're so like I had the analogy I brought up earlier, how I said if I were to strangle your dog but then give you a new dog and give you like $1 billion, it's still not just for me to do that because it's because I'm still committing this thing. I'm still doing this thing and I'm still permitting this thing, this action. So I don't think I don't think just like reconciling somebody with good after committing an evil is just or would be what an all loving deity would do.
You say you don't think that just like reconciling or bringing out the greater good in a situation is what all loving deity would do.
Well, I don't like the greater good in some situations, yes, but the greater good for because God's all just and all fair, so He wouldn't allow one animal to not be able to reap the benefits of the environment being torn down in a way as other animals could benefit from it, and basically just unalive this
What do
deer
you
because of this. Hmm?
what do you get that why wouldn't he allow it?
What?
Why wouldn't he allow it?
Because he's not only permitting this deer being unalive, but he's like that like he's permitting this deer
No,
being
but like
alive.
what's the like what's the problem? Why wouldn't uh uh just God allow that? As in, if
because
he's the God that gives life and can take away life, it's his to give and his to take away. What's the problem?
problem is that he gave all these. He would be that would be that would be like a bias towards one creature, not another, because this deer is forced to suffer and be tortured through these forest fire as they burn to death, while other creatures are able to reap the benefits of this forest being rebuilt. So it's a bias towards some creatures and not others, which is not what an all just God would be. An all just God would treat every animal
I don't
with
see how that's I
law.
don't see how that's a bias, because if I look at it from another perspective, let's say for instance, like somebody who lives 90 years old and somebody who lives 12, right? Like I could just say, oh, God was more biased to the 12-year-old because now that 12-year-old is reconciled unto him.
Okay, well, what if the deer was just born for the first time? It's a the
But
deer.
you see what I'm saying? That like you're just saying that it's not just because the thing that you value more is the natural life rather than the reconciliation with God. So from a Christian perspective, the thing that's going to be more valued is going to be your relationship with God.
Well, yeah, I don't think reconciling somebody after doing something evil to them is just permits it. Because I think if you commit an evil to somebody and you reconcile them in a way that doesn't bring out the good in their actual life, because you're not bringing out like this deer isn't being able to live its own life that it was granted, and it's not being able to view its actual life because this deer was just born and it's in it and it's being tortured to death as soon as it's born through this forest fire. So I don't understand how reconciling this deer right now with paradise, but then allowing these other animals to reap the benefits of this forest, and then reconciling them later for the things that they went through is what an all loving and all just God would do, because that's obviously biased towards one creature, not another, because that's not all just. Not everybody's being treated fairly.
Uh, yeah, I'm not honestly, I'm not following how not everyone is being treated fairly.
Because you're giving one creature a reward for something, and this other creature a torture and torment for something, and then not allowing one of them any life and allowing the other one to reap the benefits of this one being tormented.
So if I sit here and I get up to like wash my hands and I'm 5'10", and then I get a step stool for my niece who's 2'7", is that unfair because she gets support?
Well, no, because you're both being brought to the
Yeah, but
same.
she has something that I don't have.
The difference between you guys being equal, you guys are becoming equal so they can wash their hands and you can wash your hands, and that's different from one person, one
But you see
creature
how
who.
someone could argue favoritism? Like if I have another niece who's 12 and a niece that's 2, but she wants to step on a step stool, or 8 and 2, but she wants to step on a step stool. You see how she could walk away with the feeling like I'm not being fair, but she doesn't need the support while the other one does.
Well, yeah, but there's this animal doesn't want this or
But I'm
need this
saying
to
I'm
happen.
saying that like you're saying that it's not fair for like but the for some reason when the situation is flipped where you see that somebody is given the tools that they might require for a certain situation, even though someone might be deprived of that same exact tool, you're not saying that it's unfair. It's actually just to do those things and to dispute those things for specific conditions of specific people to meet them where they are.
Well, okay, so let's like there's this like so I don't think this is the same situation, because this deer is being stripped of what it needs to live and what it requires to be lived. So maybe humans can build a new factory to get more energy or something off the forest land. I don't think allowing the strip away of this deer's life and what this deer needs to live is the same as giving one person their necessities to do what they need to do, and allowing both of them to have their necessities. Because obviously, when there's there's like someone that's like 3 feet tall needs a step stool to do something, and the person who's 5 foot tall doesn't need the step stool to do something, that they both have the requirements they need to live, even if one of them it doesn't have the step stool, even if they want it. But the deer doesn't have the deer needs these requirements to live.
Jordan, you could go
So
ahead.
what was his argument?
He's trying to. I'm sorry. I'm trying to set up this YouTube stuff at the same time, bro. He's saying that all loving God, all good God, suffering exists. And now he's saying that it's not fair for like a deer in the woods to die, pretty much.
I want to say, so basically I want to say an all loving and all powerful God would allow these acts of suffering in animals and humans.
Why not?
Because these creatures are being tormented and tortured, and that's obviously you're not going to torture and torment somebody you love.
So are you talking about the animals or people?
I would say more like the better argument would be animals, because obviously if it's just a person, you could just say they fell from the fall of man and that's why they're being tortured.
But animals suffered from that too.
Yeah, which is what I don't. Well, that's one reason why I'm not a Christian, because I don't think an all living God would allow animals to go through.
No, but they suffer from the fall too.
Yeah, that's why I don't think God would. I want to think an all loving God would permit animals that didn't do anything wrong to be infinitely tormented because of what. Not infinitely tormented. I'm not infinitely tormented. Like an infinite amount of animals being tormented.
So what's wrong with their torment?
Because if you're all loving, if you love something, you want it to be tortured and tormented for its life.
Yeah, but just because I don't want something doesn't mean I wouldn't allow it to happen.
I don't think you would allow your loved ones to be tortured and tormented.
Yeah, you can. Like if your loved one's in an abusive relationship, and no matter how many times you try and stop it, they still want to be in it. Like sometimes people just leave them in that even though they don't want them to be in there.
Well, there's a difference between trying to help them, because an all-powerful God could help them and could stop this because they're all
not necessarily.
Then it's not all-powerful.
What's your definition of all-powerful?
They can do anything. They can do.
We don't think that God can do anything, like everything. Like he can't lie. He can't stop himself from existing. Like
that's a different. I mean, like he can do anything inside of this universe. He's all powerful. He has the power to do anything.
Is lying inside of this universe?
I mean, God could lie if he wanted to.
No, we don't believe that.
Yeah, because he's all good. Because he's all good, so he won't lie. By
definition, he can't do everything then.
Yeah, well, yeah, because that's why being all good and all powerful contradicts.
Because we don't believe that that's what all powerful means. That's your definition of all powerful. We don't. Nobody's ever had that definition of all powerful for Christianity.
Having the power to do anything is the definition of all powerful.
It's not. So we believe that God can do actualize all true potentials. That's what we mean by all powerful.
Wait, what'd you say?
That God has the ability to actualize all true potentials.
He has the ability to actualize any potential? What? So that's what you're saying?
Yes.
So wouldn't that mean he has the actualization to stop free will in a way? Because if he has the power, because he controls every possibility, he
can stop free will? Yeah, but why would he do that?
Wouldn't that mean he doesn't have? Wouldn't that mean? Why would he do that? Because that's.
Why would he do that? What would be the purpose of that?
What do you mean? What would be the purpose of that? If he's controlling all possibilities,
it doesn't mean he controls everything. Like he can actualize Elijah's head splitting in half right now. That doesn't mean that he's gonna do it.
I mean, yeah. But okay. So you said all-powerful God means that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that he can't do logical impossibilities. Like those aren't actual things, potentials that can be actualized.
So when I look up Christianity, what does Christianity mean by an all-powerful God? What pops up is that God possesses a supreme, unlimited power and can do anything consistent with his own all good and perfect nature.
Because that would be something that's actual, like, potential, something that could be done.
Yeah, so it has to. So he can
So
do
by
anything that
definition,
aligns with.
something like lying isn't one of those things.
Yeah, so
Like God can't make a mistake. That's not an actual.
yeah,
thing that can
because
happen.
it has to follow his perfect nature and all loving nature. So he could stop this because that follows the all loving nature.
Well, why would he stop this? That's what I'm asking you.
Because he's all
Because
loving.
all loving, quote unquote, just means willing the good for something. So that just
What?
means he wills the good for everything. Now,
He
the way in
wants-
which he wills the good can be dependent on what the creature chooses. So if the ruler of like a house chooses to like destroy his house, but ultimately God uses the destruction of that house in order to build a mansion, a better house, then it's ultimately willing the good.
Well, it's
So God controls God is the end goal or the telos, which we would say, but the means by which those things are reached can be through other means.
so, but these animals don't have the understanding of God, so they couldn't do these
If they don't have the understanding of God, how do you know that they understand like what their torment leads to and like all of
They
these different
don't
things?
understand what the torment leads to. That's
So
the
what's the
problem.
issue?
Because they understand that they're being harmed. They don't want to be harmed. That's how creatures work. That's like one of the
I don't
main.
want to be harmed. I have free will, but it still happens. So what's the issue?
Well, yeah, you don't want to be harmed, right? And these creatures are being tortured during their lives. So why, if you love somebody, you wouldn't want them to be tortured, and if you love these creatures, you wouldn't.
Okay, where are you getting that from?
Getting what from?
That you wouldn't want them to be quote unquote tortured or suffer harm.
Well, if you have love for someone, you wouldn't want them to be harmed.
Okay. How does that mean that you're not going to allow that to happen though?
Because so I kind of like this situation you brought up earlier with an abusive relationship. If you would obviously want and just tell these people, like your loved one that's in an abusive relationship, that they should leave it, or they're going to keep going through harm. And if they deny it, you at least try to. But if God is all powerful and this would align with his perfect nature, he would be able to.
How do you know that aligns with his perfect nature? Like you're just assuming these things.
Not his nature is that he's all loving. So if he's all loving,
that just means to will the good. And I said that there's different ways to will the good. So God can use our chosen suffering.
What do you mean by that? That he wills the good?
He just means he wills perfect existence for people. He wills himself. So ultimately, he wills for us to be united with God, even animals.
That's not what all loving means. All loving means that
What's
that
your
God.
definition of love?
My definition of love is feeling certain, but like God's love would be an all loving being would
Okay,
be.
what is your definition of love? You just keep using it.
Somebody who would be like benevolent, I guess, in a way, or have like a feeling of affection or towards someone or care.
So your definition of love is someone that feels care?
Somebody that cares for somebody. I guess
That's your definition of love?
If you feel care for somebody, you would usually love them.
What's the definition of that word love though? That's what I'm trying to.
I'll one second.
Because you said willing the good isn't like good enough, so I'm just curious as to what. Because that's what we mean by love.
So love, like according to like the dictionary, just means an intense feeling of affection. So like babies filling the parents with feelings of love would be an example, I guess. But I would like so God's love would be unconditional as it extends to everybody without exception.
Yeah, and then if it's an internal critique, I don't know if you are doing that, but if that's what you're doing, you're probably gonna have to use our definitions in order for the worldview to make sense.
Where do you get your definition of love from?
From the church fathers. Also, we have some definitions in philosophy as well, and also from Christ.
Can you tell me what church gave you this definition of love?
Aquinas. Also, you can go to Augustine. Also, you could see verses in the Bible which explain what love is.
Okay. You said Augustine?
Yeah.
Okay. So according to Augustine, his definition of love is a will or desire with an appropriate object characterized by the use and enjoyment. What? Wait. What does that mean? Wait, I gotta look at the translation.
What are you trying to figure out with YouTube?
What?
Who, me?
No, I was talking to the host.
Listen, somebody on YouTube was asking to request up, and they don't got TikTok, so I had to put together like a link for them so that they could request that on YouTube. But I got to do it like every time because I don't use StreamYard, which is why I don't be doing it.
Yeah, so in our paradigm, just like God loving just means that he wills himself.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by will in a way? Because I don't think I'm understanding what you're trying to say about how he wills himself.
Yeah, I can pull up a definition for will that we use.
Because like I'm trying to find something that Augustine said so I can understand it, but whenever
He
I look
wrote
up,
a lot of junk, bro.
yeah, he has a lot of stuff. So there's like 5 different like quote unquote definitions he used, and I'm like, they all mean like completely different things. So I don't even know.
It's just like a natural capacity to do things, or like the faculty that bears things that is capable of doing.
I don't like. So you say like God's will is his love in a way?
That depends who you ask and what type of distinction you make.
What's the name?
I'm not gonna lie, that's a deeper question than you may think it is. I'm trying to provide like
some people would say that
the least metaphysically like.
Some people would say that like obviously like human will and God will would be different. So like for God, will would be like knowing or acting in a way that flows from his nature. So like when he knows himself, he like acts in accordance to that, and we're like quote unquote like will himself. In regards to like God's love being his will, it's a good question. It's a real theological question.
Yeah, so like it's basically just like God is love in a sense. Yeah, so I guess, but like I would say like I guess it depends on like.
So when he wills the good, so when we say that God is love, or God is quote unquote all loving, it's not that one he loves everything, but he wills the good for all things. So for the good, since he is the good, like he wills all things to be like joined back unto him. Right. So that's exactly what Jordan was saying, that he is the telos, or the end of everything, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Everything ends in him. So when he wills something, he wills the good for that thing, which is to be reconciled unto him.
Okay, so you would say so like since God is love in a sense, you would say even though like they're being like tormented in a way, that is like loving in a way, because
No, not necessarily.
But
so
it's
all we're
his will
saying
that's allowing that to happen, is it not?
So all we're saying is that at the end, God is going to make everything all in all, which means that he's going to be in all, right? But however, because he allows us to have free will, and like the example of like letting someone destroy their house, and then like I in turn make that a better house, right? Either way, I'm going to accomplish my goal. If my goal was to build a mansion for somebody, right? If they go crazy and destroy their own house, I could still use those bad acts that I didn't necessarily intend for them to do in order to make something better. So in the same way, God's ultimate will is for us to be united with him in one way or another. However, we choose the way in which we're quote unquote united with him, whether we're against him in a way, so that our unification with him is like horrendous because we hate love and we hate goodness, or whether we're with him and we actually love goodness and mercy and certain things like that. So ultimately goodness is like a form of like existing, right? And this is also where we get like evil deeds from. Because even though people are inherently quote unquote good by nature, meaning they have some sort of existence and some sort of nature, the reason why people can sin is because they have some sort of like good that they're focusing on, but they focus on that good more than the actual source of goodness, which would be God. So, for instance, money isn't bad, or liking to have money isn't bad in and of itself. But when you like that to your detriment more than it's supposed to be, you put money above people, you put money above like your family, you know, above God or whatever. That's when it becomes the sin, and that's when you misorient the good. So, there's different ways in which a good can try to be achieved and it doesn't. But with God, everything is going to be all in God, regardless of what happens. So that just means that God just wills everything, wills himself for everything. That's all we
So
mean by that.
so like since like in the end everyone's gonna be connected to God, wouldn't that mean that for like animals and stuff, like their lives don't really matter in a sense, like because they're going to be with God in any way. So would their lives just not matter?
It doesn't really, it depends on what you mean by matter.
Like
Because at the end of the day, all like animals were made for us. Like all creation was made for humans specifically. Because humans are to be like the rulers of creation. And now in turn, those animals and plants and all these different things, they do things to help us, you know, survive. Like if we had no trees, then we'd have issues with like oxygen supply, things like that. But ultimately, we're the rulers of all of creation because we're supposed to be in the image of God. So when we decide to destroy our own house through sin, it affects all those things that are part of that house, that are part of that domain, which is why we got kicked out of the, you know, paradise, right? We're now in a house that's like falling to pieces. Now God is the one that's going to fix that and unite us to that. The way he did that was by taking on flesh, which is, you know, by becoming man, which is the ruler of creation, which was designed to be the ruler of creation, and fixing our humanity. And by doing that, he unites all of creation. So like we have like a huge like metaphysical framework that all of this ties into Jesus. So it gets a little deep. So that's why it's important that we have like our terms right and everything, because everything is tied together in Christianity, whether it
yeah,
even doesn't even look like it or not.
yeah, like I guess I could understand that. It's just like I wouldn't say I would think that all creatures were made for humans because like there's some creatures that we don't even know about that still exist and they live their lives without ever interacting with any human or ever interacting with an ecosystem that would overall affect us besides like the whole like geosphere.
Yeah, I mean that could be a thing, but I'm not necessarily saying that everything has to be physical. It could
Nor
be
does
just for our
everything
like,
need to be interacted
yeah,
with directly.
Well, and by indirectly, I mean like there's some animals, like for example, at the bottom of the ocean that we know exist
Yeah,
in a
but
sense
they
because we can like observe like their existence in some sense, but there's no interaction that they have on their personal ecosystem besides harm actually. So
yeah, but that's also due to like the fall, because animals in general, if you notice, Adam named all of the animals when he was created. That means that he understood how these animals were, and he understood the glory that these animals had, being creations of God. So he was able to name them accordingly. So like us like not knowing about these animals, not knowing about different things, or like penguins not affecting us, it's completely different now because we're so far off the planet. It's ridiculous, right? When everything's all in all, we're going to have an understanding of all creation in a way that's not the same. It's going to be on a way that that God has an understanding of creation, an understanding of glory, and all the reasons behind creation and different things like that, which we call the logoi, which also gets into something deeper.
I guess I can see how like if you use that definition of what you mean by like love, 'cause that's actually like the first time I've ever heard that definition of love. Because usually when I talk to Christians and stuff, they use like the agape love and the different, which is like
Agape.
agape.
yeah, so which is like a slightly like more like actual like characteristic love that we can like show.
Yeah, because well, agape is usually used when you're looking at like relations between persons. But even then, there's like a specific thing. Like it's not completely like quote unquote unconditional. It's unconditional in the way that, for instance, there's evil people, right? And even though they hate God, Jesus still like died for them, right? That
Yeah,
shows his love, his willingness for them to choose the good.
yeah, it's like
But
they're like the desire for others' well being.
yeah, but there's also a sense in which we can say that God quote unquote hates evil people. meaning he strongly dislikes the actions that they do and that they're wicked individuals, but there's a general want for them to, to experience the good if they quote unquote repent.
Yeah, so I like usually like people like what I thought to define it as like the desire for others' well-beings in a way. So
Yeah,
like
but
that's why
even well-being means that it's going to be accordance with the nature in which they were created by.
yeah. So I don't like
So it's going to be in accordance with God's plan.
yeah, but like I just mean like what I
Because we
mean.
also have something called like the divine logoi, and one of the divine logoi is of well-being, specifically of a thing's well-being, and that's from like Saint Maximus.
Yeah, I just like I don't understand like I how without like your like the other definition you said.
Yeah, there's not going to be a way for you to understand unless you like know like what the church fathers wrote.
Well, I know
It's
most
just
of
like
the this folk
it's
because
a,
like
it's a lot of stuff.
I used to be Christian. Obviously I haven't read it all because there's I don't think anybody has like when lists us they dedicate their entire lives to it because it's a lot. But like I just never heard like this exact definition of how it's God's will is inherently like what good and what love is because like
It depends. I'm telling you, it depends who you ask.
well yeah because
Because you're gonna have different types of distinctions for that. Like you're gonna say, "Oh, well, is it materially identical? Like, what type of identity is it? Is it formally?" Like, that gets into the weeds. Like, that's something different.
yeah. Well, I mean, like, what I meant in a way is like, I forgot what I was gonna say. Wait, like how like God in a way is love and like whatever God like his like existence is love in a way. So like usually that would make it like arbitrary, but I don't want to say that that's a bad thing. But so I just like I never heard that version of it before because usually people just like use the like the well-being and that caring for how one person's like being like right now is not like I guess it just depends like who you ask, but that makes more sense for the point I brought up. I just never heard that before. I don't really know how to.
Also, well-being, when you look at it, has to do with like the ultimate goal as well in Christianity.
Yeah.
So either way, you're gonna be looking at like the ultimate goal, which would be God.
Yeah, it's just usually when I bring up like well-beings of animals, it's like their actual like.
Yeah, because currently it ain't looking like it's too well-being.
Yeah. No animal, no creature really has well-being. The best
like, people are blowing up, like their legs are coming off. That doesn't look like well-being.
Well, that's yeah, but like, I just don't like I was like humans. Like that's why I don't usually bring up humans because usually if you bring up like human suffering anyway, it could just be accounted for the fall of man. Because yeah, but that's why I usually bring up animals because usually like animals like well-beings themselves are always being tortured, and if an all-living God were to care for well-being, then that wouldn't happen. But I guess like saying that him being what good and love is makes it not like that. I guess that works.
Yeah, it gets complicated to an extent, but
I mean,
it's all tied together.
It seems like Jordan was able to answer your objections.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, I never heard that before, so I don't really have a response to it. Never heard that.
Prayerfully, you come back to Christianity, bro. If you have more questions, feel free to request back up. God bless you, bro. Shout out Jordan. Thank you, Jordan. I was not locked in.
I can't hear a word that you're saying. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Are you serious?
Bro, you kind of low. Maybe it's my earphone.
Check.
Now it's like buzzing. Just put it back. Just put it back.
All right, hold on. Check. Tell me, is it cool? Is it cool?
Yeah, straight. I can hear you.
All right. What's up, Yanni?
So I just want to know, the Adam and Eve felt shame, right? After the fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they were perfect.
You said what?
That means they were perfect, right? Because they weren't able to feel shame at all. Because they're eating from a tree that is of good and bad, which means they only knew good, right?
No, that's not what that means.
So what does that mean? How did they
So,
feel shame though?
so when God created everything, everything was radiating with God's glory, because God was in relationship with everything, because Adam and Eve had not broken off that relationship yet. So in a sense, they were clothed with glory. So when you looked at them, you saw light, or God's divine light. So after they sinned and God's relationship with them changed, that divine glory left them,
But
and they
how
were
was
literally naked.
Eve though? But how is my thing is they were fine. They were fine, right? So how were they able to just shift that quickly? Like if all they knew was what they knew, how would it just take one thing for them to just transform? Like how is that? Like how are you able to disobey somebody you never disobeyed before? Like where did that come from? And
So,
why not just end it with them? This is the thing. Okay, all of that cool, they saw the glory. Why not end it with them? Why am I paying for what they did?
so you don't want to exist, or like,
No, I'm
or
saying why am I paying for what they did? They
like,
did it. I didn't do anything. So why is it a bloodline of sin when you could have ended it there?
you asking
You're
a
creating
lot of
a problem.
questions.
You're creating a problem just to solve it, and then you're gaslighting me when
I'm
you.
not like, we have answers to all this. Like, it all follows logically. I'm just trying to figure
I
out like what you want me to answer first.
okay, so it doesn't. It's more so my thing is it's just not making sense because okay, let me just lay out one thing. So we're getting judged for what they did. My
No,
question is, yeah,
we're not.
we have sinned. We have
No,
sinned
no, no,
because
no,
of
no, no,
it.
no, 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 no. We're not getting judged for what they did.
So, but okay, so we have sinned because of who though? Who sinned first? They did, right? So
We have
we're
sin when we
getting
choose to go against
no,
God.
no, 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 no. They had sin. So remember how he had floods and he killed people? Why not just end it and start fresh? Start new people with no sin. Why are you continuing it when you can stop that? You
That
part
when
Red
you're
Sea,
born, you
do all
don't
of that.
have. When you're born, you haven't sinned. Like, I don't know, like what you.
Yes, you're born into sin though. You are
Thank
born
you.
into sin. Why am I able to sin then?
You're able to sin because you're not God, and your
No,
will
but
isn't
they weren't
aligned with
sinners though.
God.
But why not make me like Adam and Eve before they sinned then? You're
Adam
making
and
me like them
okay,
after
If Adam and Eve sinned, how are you gonna say that you wouldn't sin if you were in the same state that Adam and Eve were in? Like, we
because
all get a
something
fresh
no, but
chance.
no. But something caused them to sin. So I'm saying why not make us like that and remove that issue from happening again?
You want him to remove our will, like our
Well,
ability to
What will
hold on,
choose.
hold on,
remove
hold
the
on, hold
issue
on,
that
hold
destroys
on,
us?
hold
What are
on.
you saying?
So Yanni, what you're asking for is essentially the gospel, because what Christ does is after the fall, he recreates us, and the thing that plagues us, namely sin and death, is that which Christ removes, so that we will be made perfect. We are a new creation in Christ, and we will choose God out of our own free will. We won't sin.
So he's gonna remake us anyway, perfect, but still judge us in our imperfect state. What sense does that make? Just make me perfect.
Yeah,
Why
so
make
to
me do
be,
all of
He
this? Just
can't
make me
make you
perfect.
God. That's
Okay,
impossible.
no. But then you just said he's gonna make us perfect, though.
yeah,
You
to
said
be,
he's gonna make us to
to,
perfect to not do any of this. So therefore, you're making us
so
perfect.
to be
So just
made,
make me to not do that in the first place. My thing is, Adam and Eve did something wrong. Stop it with them and give us a fresh start. It doesn't make any sense to
We
keep.
have a fresh start. I don't know
No,
what you're
we
talking about.
don't. No,
How
we
do we
don't.
not?
Because he's still gonna have to remake us anyway.
he,
What's the
so,
point? What first start? You're judging me for being imperfect. I'm imperfect. You can't judge me for that. I'm not you. So I'm not
what?
understanding.
No, so you being, at first, I would need to understand what you mean by perfect. What do you
You
mean by
said that.
perfect?
He's going to make us perfect, meaning
Yeah.
we're not going to be doing what we're doing now. So we're not going to choose to do bad things. That is what it means. We're choosing to do bad things, and he's going to remake us, and he's going to make us not do these things.
Yeah,
We're not
so,
No,
choosing
no,
to
no,
not
no,
do
no,
so,
no, no,
anything.
no, no,
so,
no. He's not making us not do bad
So
yeah,
what does remake mean? I think it's the wording that's messing you up. Whatever you think make means, he's going to recreate.
so
It's the same.
we're remade, like we're remade and recreated through baptism, and he gives us the spirit to aid us in our walk, to being made perfect. Now we're made perfect through Christ. That's what Hebrews chapter 10 verse 14 says. We are made perfect through Christ, but it's your choice to accept Christ and his grace and the spirit that he gives those who believe in him, and in baptism be united unto him in order to be made perfect. So after we put off our bodies of corruption, we put on that which is incorruptible, as 1 Corinthians 15 says.
But it also says we carry on the sins of our fathers. So if my mother was a murderer, I inherit those sins.
No.
What?
No.
You just quoting random stuff.
No, I'm saying, okay,
I
okay,
don't.
you can laugh
Hey,
about
can
it,
y'all
but
keep liking alive, please?
so it literally says that we are in sin because of our forefathers. Literally, it
And what does
says.
that mean?
So whoever sinned, it's in the blood. Whoever sinned first, it's in the blood. At the end of the day, answer this.
Meaning what? What is
Where
that?
are you
Okay.
hold
So
on, where are you
whatever.
getting these scriptures from? Can you pull?
Okay, let's take the scriptures away, right? Let's go by the stories in
You
the
said
Bible.
you said that it says these things.
Okay, I don't know all the scriptures. Me saying it, y'all are deep in the faith. I think y'all should know what I'm
But
saying.
you're saying it like,
but-
oh, this is what scripture says. So what you're
Okay,
saying,
so if I don't know the exact scripture, my bad. I don't know the exact scripture, but let's go off of why have the flood? There's a flood. Why was that?
Ooh, you gotta focus on one thing, bro.
Let's
You
start.
all over
No,
the
because
place.
it's like I'm trying to understand the whole sin thing.
You can't understand if you ask 20 different
Okay,
topics at
so the
once.
sin. Why? How do I have sin? How do I have sin? How do I have sin? We're imperfect humans. That's what states in the Bible. But then you're saying we were made perfect. So am I perfect or not?
You have sin when you sin. That's it. When you do something against God, that's when you have sin.
So I'm not perfect.
You?
If you sin, yeah, you're.
So
not
you're perfect.
Nah.
When did I say? What does that even follow? How does that follow that I'm not perfect? Now?
Okay, thing is,
Yeah, you probably should have asked. Like,
but that's what I'm saying though. So it's like
I'm trying to figure out what your question is.
My
you,
thing is,
you
what
jumping and
makes
stealing
somebody
chicken out of a
sin?
pot. Like I don't know what's going on.
What makes sin? What causes sin and what stops it?
What causes sin? When we misalign our good, and it's not aligned with God. That's what causes sin. When we have an idea of something that's good and it's not in line with God's purpose.
Okay, so my question now is God Almighty?
What do you mean by Almighty?
Is God Almighty? You know what Almighty means? What does?
No, I don't know what you mean.
Okay, no. What does all mean? Everything, Almighty, the mightiest of all. So is He
I
Almighty?
could be the mightiest of all and still
You're
be
not. We're not
imperfect.
talking about
Like,
you. We're talking about God. Is God Almighty? We're not talking about you.
like
get
he's
to
the
your-
strongest.
Get
Like,
to your
that's what you
actual
mean?
Yanni. Get to your actual gripe. Like, what's the actual thing that bothers you about Christianity? When you're off screen, we can't hear you.
Nothing makes sense.
Okay, so choose one topic, like your main thing. Like you're like, I
A
don't
bunch of
understand
things.
this.
It's a
Just
bunch of things. So
okay. I'm
why
asking
is
you to
God
choose one.
Almighty?
Hold
Is God
on,
Almighty?
Yanni. Choose one thing that doesn't make sense to you, and we could talk about that. Because you're throwing like 20 different topics at the wall right now, and you're switching from thing to thing to thing. So you're not going to understand anything because you're not going to allow us to explain anything fully. So choose one thing that really doesn't make sense to you and allow us to explain that thing.
Is God Almighty?
Yes, bro.
What makes Him Almighty?
His
Or
name.
what is your definition? Because I remember you had said, what is your definition of Almighty then?
He can do logically possible things. Like he can actualize any true potential.
What does omniscient mean?
That
Knowing
he knows everything.
Omnipresent, He's everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is this. I'm trying to figure out why God had to do all these things, right? He did all these things to people, hurt all these people to prove a point.
Where did you
Why?
get that from? I don't like. What do you mean to prove a point? I don't know what. I don't even know what
Okay,
you're talking
so
about.
for example, right, Job,
Uh-huh.
why did he have to kill, like,
So
allow
we're gonna stay on Job, right? Like, we're not
we
going
can stay
anywhere
on Job. We
else.
can stay on Job. We can stay on Job. I'm not going nowhere.
Okay, because I don't
Right
like
now.
you ask a question and then like the next
Yeah.
sentence is something else that has
That's it. I'm
nothing.
sorry. I'm just super excited, and I know I can't talk about everything, so that's my bad. Because I was really deep in the faith. I was raised like Jehovah's Witnesses and everything.
Oh
I'm,
Lord,
yeah.
You
that
was
was
never deep
problem
in the
number
faith.
one. That was problem.
You was never
That was
deep in the
No,
problem number
faith,
one.
man. You was
no.
in the
I'm saying
wrong
though,
faith,
like,
You was
gang.
deep
the
in
thing is,
treachery.
Yeah.
I've been to other churches too. I've been to other churches too, but I'm just saying it's like I've had questions. I have so many questions that I ask, and I just feel like nobody could answer my questions. But I'm just simply saying, like, why do that to Job, right? Like, if you know our hearts, how are you gonna judge me if you know me? And I'm gonna leave
So,
it at that.
all
What?
right. So the purpose. So the
He knows
purpose.
our heart, but for example, Job, he knows Job, right? So he allows the devil to do all these things to Job, take his family away, replace his family, even though he knows that Job wouldn't do that, to prove to the devil that, hey, Job isn't going to do that. Why do you have to prove something to the devil? He's less than you.
It's not about
Yeah.
proving things.
What
All
is it
right.
about then?
Okay. So when we look at the story of Job, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the first thing you should understand is people go to heaven
Mm-hmm.
because they are aligned with God. All right.
Okay.
You have to choose to be aligned with God.
Okay.
Now, also, if you say someone like Paul, for instance, if I know a lot of things and I'm really smart and I'm just better than people at a lot of things, right?
Okay.
If I let that go to my head, I become prideful and that becomes a sin, and then I start to separate myself from God. So even though some people may be perfect in their actions, like Job,
Mm-hmm.
God can have certain things happen or allow demons to do certain things so
Mm-hmm.
that they understand that, okay, I can't do this without God. Therefore, they don't separate themselves from God, or they get through those temptations and they understand, look, I'm still stronger because of this, because I've been tried and I still stuck with God. And then I understand God more. So there's different reasons as to why God will allow demons to do certain things like that. So that's one of the reasons as to why God can allow Satan to do that, in order to actually build Job up as a person, and also to make sure he doesn't have pride, and so that he always sticks with God.
But that's the thing. God knew that he wouldn't ever turn on him.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean
That's
that
why
Job
he
actually, like,
No, but
Job
that's
has
why
to
he
do
chose
that.
Job, though. But that's why he chose Job. He would have never chosen Judas Iscariot. Like, hey, Judas got me. Like, he's not gonna betray me. He chose Job because he knew that Job would never do that.
And he
So
knew that Job would benefit from this.
yeah, but his family died. Why not just like? Because I guess there was like a part where it says his wife was bad anyway. So why not just give him a better wife in the first place? Then give him that, take it from him to prove the point.
He wouldn't have the building that's required. Like, you
But
need
he
to.
knew he wouldn't turn from him though. So he already know, because remember, God knows him more than he knows
I
him.
can know that Elijah is going to get stronger if he lifts weights. If Elijah never lifts weights, he's not going to be stronger.
No,
So
but
just
God
me
picked
knowing,
Job
hold
for
on,
a reason though. God
I,
picked Job for a reason. Remember,
I,
the Bible also
yes,
speaks about
because
chosen one. So why would you pick Job when you already know? You already know. Because
I
it
can
doesn't
know
matter. Why does the devil need, why you need to kill
Elijah
his
can,
people
hold
though?
on, Elijah can have a dad that is 6'8", and Elijah is 5 years old. I know that Elijah is going to be tall when he grows up. And I know he has the potential to be an athlete because his dad's an athlete.
But
So
that wasn't
therefore,
necessary. The death wasn't necessary though to prove a point. What was the point of that?
oh my gosh.
You could build up Job in a different way than
How do
murdering
you know this?
everyone.
How do you know this?
Because that's his family and you're murdering his
How do
family.
you know that that's not the best way to build Job?
Why would that be the okay? So if your
How
family,
do you know it? I just need to
you'll
know,
be
how do you
fine
know that?
because you're supposed to have sympathy. He's
Sympathy? What
busy
do you mean
doing
sympathy?
okay, so he's busy doing all of that when it's people actually What? Okay, so slavery. Why he couldn't stop
All
slavery?
right, hold
I
on.
thought we was gonna
Hold
stay
on.
on Job.
All right, so
Exactly.
wait.
I
But I'm
thought we was
saying,
gonna stay on Job.
God chooses everything, right? So he
Hold-
chose to put us in
Bro, you
No,
slavery.
just told me you was
no,
gonna stay on
Okay.
Job, and now
Briefly,
we
stop.
in slavery, brother.
no.
Like,
So
what are you trying to
It's
focus
no
on?
answer. It's no answer. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
so
It's no
look, so
answer.
That's
with
not a no answer. You just ask
It's no
1,000
answer.
questions.
That's no answer. I didn't get an
Yanni,
answer as to why none of this makes sense. You're telling me that God
Yanni,
is choosing to make
Yanni,
bad things happen, but
Yanni.
then you're telling me that it's the devil in charge. So if the devil makes bad things happen,
When did
how
I
is
say it's
God?
the devil in
No,
charge?
no, no, no. So I'm saying the devil make things happen, right? He
Bro,
causes
okay.
bad things, but then God
Oh
also
my goodness.
chooses bad
You are
things.
using stuff that other people told you that I never even said. Like, I don't know where you're even getting this stuff from.
So it's literally in the Bible.
Here, let me
Where?
try.
It's
Let me
literally
try.
in
Where?
the Bible.
I don't
Where?
think I'm gonna get any further. Let me try.
Where?
Let me. Sure. Let
It's
me.
literally in the Bible.
Yanni. So, did you hear anything that Jordan said?
Yes, but it's still not telling me anything. Like you're telling me that
Okay.
God makes bad things happen, but He's Almighty. I don't understand.
Okay. I don't. All right. So, so in regards to the book of Job, right? There's a lot of things that are happening there. So when this person, the Satan figure in Job, takes Job's family away, the purpose of the book of Job is to show that even in the face of wickedness, God is still trustworthy. Now, in the face of that wickedness, yeah, Job never cursed God to his face, but you see Job going through a lot of these internal and external conversations about the goodness of God. There were things that he did not understand about God's goodness and about God's justice that he needed to understand. So when you get to Job chapter 38 or into Job chapter 42, you see God responding to Job. It gives us insight about the incarnation and our upcoming salvation. It gives us insight about Job's faith in the midst of destruction and despair, so that now we can rely on Job's story and testimony to have faith in the one who's going to save him, even in the midst of the most troubling of circumstances. And we serve a God that has power over the things that we don't understand, which God shows him in chapter 38. So then Job walks away from that repentant, sorry, because he questioned God and he accused things for things that he did not yet understand. God reveals these things not only to him, but to all believers who follow after Job. So it's not just proving a point to this Satan figure at all, but it is giving something to Job that he desperately needed, as well as all of those who find themselves confronted with evil, like losing family members. And there's a God that is present even in the midst of that despair and gives you answers of how to walk in the midst of that despair. That's what Job is about. So it's not just, oh, I want to prove a point to Satan, but it's for Job
So
and
what
it's
was
for you.
so what was slavery for?
What was slavery for?
400 years of people dying. What was that for?
First of all
So
right.
this is a different question that you want
Yeah.
No,
to
it
answer?
doesn't.
So
But I'm just asking though. Can you? That's it, and I'm
here,
done.
okay,
What was
Yanni.
slavery?
So
I'm gonna
we,
go.
we can move on to slavery if you say that, okay, I now understand Job. I'm not going to bring that up anymore.
Oh
Can
yeah, I
you
don't have to bring
explain?
that up.
You don't have to bring that up. You get Job
No,
now?
I get that. I get that.
Okay. So now, what are you talking about? What is slavery
So
for?
why couldn't he stop slavery?
Who's to say he didn't stop it?
No, but why 400 years though?
It
Babies
wasn't
were
for,
used
please.
babies were okay. So okay,
It wasn't
babies were used
400
as
years.
alligator bait. I'm trying to understand. These were babies. Right now, there are kids getting
Yeah, so
murdered.
slavery happens because of the evil of man, not because God wants these things to happen.
So how do you know that God stopped it? Wasn't the people that went out there and fought for their rights, weren't they the one that stopped it? How are you gonna say God stopped it then?
As the people who go and fight for the freedom of slaves,
Yeah.
most of them are Christians. The abolitionist movement is led by Christians.
Mm, I feel that. I'm gonna let somebody else get a chance to come up.
What island are you from?
Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you. Now I appreciate that though. Trust me, I'm just on a spiral right now because I'm really just asking a lot of questions. Like it's just so many questions that I'm having. Like so, I'm just spiraling, like, because I really want to know. I'm like super intrigued. Like, this fascinates me a lot, so that's really
But
cool.
if you have a question, you gotta like figure out the answer to that question first before moving on to something else.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Definitely. But I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
God bless you. You could come up anytime. God bless you.
Appreciate it.
I felt like I was just on a soapbox. I'm sorry. Hello?
Yo, hello.
What's up?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I was a Christian my entire life since birth, but I left it like a few months ago.
Okay.
Because I had issues with like stuff like the whole. I understand free will, the whole like what Christians say on it. I just had issues with God's morality and just how the world works, everything like that. I understand that, the whole how to defend Christianity against other religions. I've been studying that for a while, and I know all those arguments. Just like the whole morality issue that I have with Christianity and just religion in general. So
What about the morality and Christianity?
it's just so more so like how Calvinism, they believe that is our predestination, everything like it's gonna happen
Yeah, we
regardless.
ain't Calvinists though.
I know. I'm not saying that
Okay.
though. I'm not saying that though. But I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that a lot
George
of
shut that down immediately.
yeah,
Any
but
links to
also
Protestantism, he'd be like, hey.
right. So God, like in my view, right, God still creates us and He knows what we're gonna do, and regardless, He gives us a chance to choose for ourselves, but He still knows what we're gonna do in the end. It's just more so that when He's creating, giving us opportunity to life, all of us, and whatever happens, He'll know where we're gonna go. Like, what's the point of doing that, right? It's just also the issues I have with homosexuality as well with Christianity.
You say you used to be a homosexual?
No. I said that I was have
I
issues
mean,
with
Elijah, you could sympathize with that one, but you can.
Well, what did you say? I didn't hear you. You said you used to have an issue with homosexuality?
No, I said that Christians have an issue with it, and I believe that when humans are that's not necessarily born that way, but choose to be that way, it's only against religion because religion said so. And I don't believe I don't believe sinful actions aren't necessarily sinful in certain ways. Yeah.
What was the first question you had though? I'll try and answer that one, and then
Morality.
Elijah, you might want to.
Just more so that I believe that if you, let's say you're like let's say you're 5 years old and you grow up in a world and you just decide to be homosexual and you believe that's the correct thing and you like partying with your friends, going out every weekend, not necessarily doing anything bad like sleeping with everyone, but just having a good time, and you're just going to be sent to hell for that just because you simply don't believe Jesus, believe in something.
We don't necessarily say they're just gonna automatically go to hell.
No, you don't. No, of course not. But like there are.
You're
Of
just
course,
asking why things are a sin.
no, just having issues with certain things being a sin, only because God says it's a sin.
Well, why can't it like not be? Like, how do you determine what a sin is?
Just more so like I have issues with. I don't. What do you mean? What I determined by?
You say you have a problem with it, but how do you determine like when something's wrong or not?
Just more so, I think I determine something wrong if it hurts other people. For example.
But if someone were to argue that that action actually hurts those people, like spiritually, like, I mean, I could think of ways it could be physical, but that's
right. I mean, that's only one example I had. There's of course other things that also.
What was some of the other things? Maybe we could break ground on that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's just the whole thing that God knows what we're gonna do in the end, and He still gives opportunity to change yourself. And if you don't believe in Him and choose living your life in the way you want to live it, you're gonna go to hell. I know you guys don't say that, but it's going to happen regardless. And of course, different denominations agree with me, like Orthodox, Coptics, everyone.
I mean, they wouldn't say that either. They would say that, like, generally speaking, that would be a life that would lead to hell. Yeah, because
right.
For instance, what's
tell 'em
good
what
is
hell
like
is.
God, right? For instance, in Orthodoxy,
I was Orthodox before, yeah.
okay, so we'll just use the Orthodox paradigm then. Were you Coptic or Eastern?
Eastern.
Okay, so we'll just use Eastern Orthodox paradigm.
Yeah.
So you understand that in Orthodoxy, hell, both heaven and hell is God, right?
Right, but I like it's the thing that is just more so I have an issue with I mean of course I have an issue with their sense of worship and their sense of how doctrine works, but it's just in general, all denominations, just Christianity in general, they all have an issue with other people living their life in their way, and they'd be like,
We
yeah,
don't
you're
have
doing
an
that.
issue with it. We're just
They
saying
do.
what the consequence of it is going to be.
Oh yeah, exactly. But okay, so let's stick on that. The consequences is me going to hell for living my life in a way I want to live it, making me happy, and all because God says it's wrong, and you guys believe it's wrong because God said it. I'm gonna go to hell for that, and He knows what I'm gonna do along the way. That's the issue I have with it.
Yeah, so the church fathers will say it's more like an illusion, basically. So people like Gregory of Nyssa, they'll use the analogy of like a dog with a bone in his mouth, and he looks at the reflection in the water, and in order to get the bone that's in the water, he drops the bone that's in his mouth. That's what we would say about the vices. The vices all have something quote unquote good in them, but it's misplaced, and that's why we kind of like trick ourselves into believing that those things are actually good. So when we're created in a certain way that tends towards goodness. For instance, ice, in order for ice to exist, because goodness is a form of existence, right? In order for ice to exist, it needs coldness, right? It wants to be cold. So that's the way that it keeps going. In order
So
for
it
us
needs to be
to,
balanced for something to be correct.
you said what?
You just like you're using the thing like if it's pain, there gotta be goodness. Is that the analogy you're trying to go to here?
Well, I'm saying that we tend towards goodness. The way that our nature is benefit and spirit benefits is by going towards goodness.
Yeah, but you
So
can be. Sorry for interrupting you, bro. But we can be good while not following God, right? Only because I'm not religious, I can still do good acts and good things. That analogy doesn't really prove anything towards God existing or anything.
yeah, so the only way in order to you can't be good without God. That doesn't make
Yes, you
sense.
can.
No, that's a contradiction. All goodness
So,
comes
okay,
from God because
okay.
He's the source of goodness.
Interesting. So, if I can ask you a question, right?
Hmm.
Let's say a friend of mine. Well, let's say my
He could be
parents.
atheist and do good acts. Like
Right.
we agree that they have good acts, but that's only because of God.
No one is completely good, but for example, my dad, who's been an atheist for 60 years, whenever he has like raised me and my sisters and everything, he's been helping us when we had 7 jobs. He's going to do good things, taking care of people, making sure we go into school, have good healthcare, everything. And he's genuinely an amazing person. And yes, people have their faults. No one is perfect, but he can still do good things and be a good man without having God in his life.
That's impossible.
Morality.
He has God in his life. He just doesn't
How
acknowledge
how is that
God.
impossible when, like, I just gave you an example of him doing good things?
Because we're literally made, our nature tends towards goodness, i.e., it tends towards God. So
All
he's
right.
doing these good acts because of God, only through God, even though he doesn't acknowledge God as the creator. So that's what we mean when we say you literally can't do anything apart from God. So the only
Yeah.
difference is when people do what we call vices, they do these things thinking that there's some form of good in it when it's not actually the true good. And when you do that, you lead yourself away from the true good. That's what we call change. Change is either going to go in one way or the other way. So the reason we're not good in and of ourselves, so we
Right.
seek that thing which is good in and of itself. However, when we see a mirage of that, i.e. the vices, i.e. the dog that looks at the reflection and thinks that the bone in the water is real, that's when we go the opposite way, away from God, away from existence. When we do the virtues, we go towards God. When we align ourselves with Christ, we align ourselves with the principle of our being, which would be the principle of all goodness. And that's how we are united to the true good.
All right. I understand where you're coming from as a Christian of what's like, goodness comes from God and everything, but good acts has still been proven to be without God. People who don't believe in it. I understand what you guys believe. I don't reject that. But I mean, I do reject it if I don't like follow it. But that still doesn't disprove God, that doesn't like prove God existence in general, right?
I mean, we could prove God's existence. That's
Metaphysically?
Yeah.
All right, sure. Go for it.
Elijah, you up the bat, buddy.
All right. So, me personally, I like the argument from motion. So the argument for motion is pretty much that change exists. And
Mhm.
by change, we mean that things move from potential to actual.
Right.
Okay. So
Do you believe? I'm just like saying right. So you just believe like something needs to move for it to be. Like I don't understand. Repeat that.
Yeah, so we're saying that change exists, right? And by change, we mean that things go from what they could be to what they actually are. So, like a pot of water, right, could be hot. It has the potential to be hot. And then when it's actually hot, that's change. They went from potentially being hot to actually being hot. It's the movement or the reduction of that potential to actuality, to what it actually is.
So for something to happen to have a cause, it needs to be a background to the cause, basically. Like some like metaphysical like type of deity that moves these things, right? Creates these things for things to have action. Is that where you're going on?
Not
Like from a popular
not
culture.
actions, not like necessarily actions, but to be sustained. So right now we're just talking about what change is. So we're saying that change exists. We're just saying that things go from potential to actual. I'm
Sure, okay.
defining the term for you.
Sure. I don't have a lot of knowledge within metaphysically, so I can't really debate it. Like, but let's go from an agnostic view, right? Let's just do this. So if a person believe yes, a god or a deity could exist that has all like
Well,
all powerful,
wait.
right?
Hold on. We're gonna go through the argument because it's not that hard to it's not hard to understand, and whatever you don't understand, I'm more than happy to explain. So what I'm doing is just explaining my terms. So when I say change, I want you to know what I'm talking about. So when I say that change exists, I'm defining change. That's it. So change exists, and by change, I mean the actualization of a potential. That's all I'm saying. Does that make sense? And then I explained what potential is, and I explained what actuality is. Does that make sense?
Well, no, but yes and no.
All right. What doesn't make sense?
Well, it makes sense in your way of explaining it, but it's just more so that these things can happen without having a god like existing within these things.
So look, you're
it has nothing to
jumping.
do with God.
Yeah, you're jumping to like you're trying to presuppose the conclusion or jump to the conclusion. All we're saying is that change exists right now. That's it.
Right.
And we're just defining change. Even if you don't want to accept this, you can. Even if you don't want to accept God, you can still say that change exists.
Right.
Okay. So change exists, and change is the actualization of potential. But a potential, but a potential can't actualize itself. Like a pot of water isn't gonna make itself hot. Something already actual, like fire, that's already hot, right, needs to bring that potential into actuality. Therefore, pretty much whatever changes is changed by something else.
All right.
Okay. This leads to a chain of changers, each depending on the thing prior to it right now to actualize its potential. We're going to say that this chain can't go on forever, but it has to terminate in a first. This first can't have any potential. Otherwise, it would be actualized by something external to it, but must be purely actual. A purely actual being is what we mean by God. Therefore, God exists. So you might have a problem with, this chain, why can't it go on forever or whatever the case may be? Maybe you don't believe in infinite regresses, and that's fine, and I don't have to explain that.
All right. Can I just say one thing if that's fine with you?
Yeah.
So, let's go by you here. Okay, so you just proven God exists, right, within that analogy, or it's not really an analogy because of what you explained. But let's go from this. Why exactly the Christian God, which is proven to be moral and just in the Old Testament, I mean unjustful in the Old Testament and New Testament, and then just jump into, okay, well, that's the correct God, right? Like from an agnostic point of view, why can't other people believe it? Yeah, well, a God wouldn't necessarily let these things happen on Earth, right? And let 3.1 million people every year die of starvation, which is, well, like statistically fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why exactly the Christian God? Why do you believe in that?
Yeah, so I can give an answer to that, but I want to make sure that we understand. If you're granting this argument, I need you to understand that you're saying that the argument logically follows and shows that God exists.
Right, yes, but I'm an agnostic atheist.
You can't if you're saying that I'm going to deny where the logic follows, where it concludes in the existence of God, you now logically know that God exists. Now you're asking the question as to what God exists, but now you logically know, or it was logically demonstrated to you that God exists.
Well, yes, but again, I just told you I don't have a lot of knowledge about talking about metaphysical stuff. So sometimes when you're explaining your argument to God existence, I may not be able to follow it completely. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm correct or wrong. It's just saying that I don't know. But I'm just saying, like that, what I said earlier, like 2 minutes ago, I just went, okay, well, now that you've proven God exists,
But yeah,
why?
so okay, so but here's the thing though. Like I understand you're not metaphysically sound, and I'm not saying that I'm the most metaphysically sound. But if you have a problem, like if you're going to reject the conclusion, you have to have a problem with one of the premises. It sounds
Right.
like you understand that, right? Because otherwise, if it's a valid inference, then the conclusion just necessarily follows. It's
Mhm.
it's true. So necessarily, if you don't have a problem with any of the premises, you don't see any problem. Say you could go look for one, but as of right now, it's logically been shown to you that God exists.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, I just told you 2 minutes ago before that I know what you're saying. Yes, yes, and no, because I don't really follow through it. Yeah, but I get where you're coming from. So I'm not necessarily. I don't have the knowledge to debate you on that.
All right. Cool. So now you're asking, how do we know that it's the Christian God?
But I'm open. I'm open to saying yes and like learning about it. But again, why the Christian God within your proving God exists?
Yeah, there's a lot of different arguments. One of my the thing that really helped me was the historical argument for the resurrection of Christ.
Okay.
Is one that was really big for me. There's metaphysical arguments as well, but personally, I like the historical argument for the resurrection, because if Christ rose from the dead, then Christianity is true. If Christianity is true, then Christianity is the only religion that would be true. Every other religion would be false.
When you say he rose from the dead and you say it's historical evidence for that, which historical evidence are you pointing to
Yeah.
for him
So
actually rising?
what I like to implore is the minimal facts argument. It just takes like the bare minimum of the things that we know pretty much for certain. And I think the only thing that like best explains all of these facts is the resurrection. So pretty much that is, historically speaking, we know that Jesus Christ died by crucifixion under Pontius Pilate, that his disciples firmly believed to have seen him risen from after he had died. His enemies also firmly believed to have seen him after he had died, and the tomb is empty. And I would say
Right,
that the
and that's from the Bible, right?
no, even outside of the Bible.
Which source?
Like
Are you talking about like
you
early
could look
Christian
at,
sources?
you said what?
Are you just talking about from like early Christian theology sources?
No, like you could use like Josephus, for example. Everything that I said pretty much is confirmed by Josephus, who's like a Jewish historian around the 1st and 2nd century, who's recounting all of these events that happened. This is just one. You have like Tacitus,
Well, when
Pliny
you
the
say
Younger.
right, interesting. So when you say he recounted those events happening, meaning that when he existed at that time and in that time span, he basically recounted it because other people said it before on like when the Bible was being, because it's for the author, when the Bible was being like in order to be established, he was recounting those events like all due to old scriptures, not necessarily actually be happening because they didn't have technology.
No. So Josephus is a Jew.
I know.
Um,
You can still be a Messianic Jew.
what's the name? You said what?
You can still be a Messianic Jew, believing that.
Yeah,
this
no.
is
So
actually
he's not a believer in Christ, but where Josephus gets his information from is from the people who condemned Christ to death. It's the people who was on the Sanhedrin. This is where he gets a lot of his information from. So when he's writing this, he's giving a history of the events that lead to the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. So he's just a historian that's writing, hey, these are the things that take place that kind of lead to this debacle. And in the middle of that history, he writes about this specific person, Jesus, as kind of like an afterthought, because he wants to tell him what happened to Jesus's brother named James.
Okay.
So he's giving them a little bit of context as to, oh, I'm finna talk about James. This is the brother, Jesus, who all these people who we see now, Christians, and pretty much this is just a little excerpt on him. So what he says, and this is one of the most recent like scholarly things that came out in May of this year. But he says, and at this time there was a certain Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man, for he was a doer of incredible deeds, a teacher of men who received truisms with pleasure, and brought over many from among the Jews and many from among the Greeks. He was thought to be the Christ. And when Pilate had condemned him to the cross at the accusation of the first men among us, those who were first devoted to him did not cease to be so. For on the third day it seemed to them that he was alive again, given that the divine prophets had spoken of such things and thousands of other wonderful things about him. And up until now, the tribes of the Christians who were named from him has not disappeared.
All right.
So the bare minimum facts of what I'm talking about is affirmed by somebody like Josephus, who's
So yes, I'm interrupting you. Sorry again. Just tell me if I'm doing too much and just interrupt me. But this is Josephus, right? So he was talking to other people back then when he was existing, and he was asking them questions on this. And these other people who were Jewish or Christians, whatever they were, was basically saying, yes, this happened, this did not happen. And he basically
no.
That's what you said.
No. So
Okay.
he's just giving the history. He's recounting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he's just recounting the events that happened. He's not like
Mhm.
asking people questions or anything like that. Like he's
But
just
you did say he talked to other people as well, like, and they
no.
were.
So when he says, here, let me put it back up. When he says, and this book goes into all of that, but when he says,
Mhm.
when Pilate had condemned him to the cross at the accusation of the first men among us, the first men among us are the people who actually accused Christ to death. So these are people who are around him. Like
Okay.
he has, and the book goes into like the exact people who are around him, who are the first men among us that actually accused Christ to death. So these are historical events that, like, we know for sure that he died by crucifixion. There are people in the Sanhedrin that accused him. These are historical figures. And then he goes on to say that it seemed to them that to the people who were devoted to him, on the third day, it seemed to them that he was alive again. So the bare minimum facts, even outside the Bible, is affirmed even by people like Josephus.
When you say he's recounting events, what do you mean define by recounting, though?
He's telling them what happened in the same way that we would do history. If I ask you what happened yesterday, you would recount the events that happened yesterday. This book is called Josephus and Jesus, a New Evidence for Josephus. Here, I'll let you guys screenshot it. Josephus and Jesus, New Evidence for the One Called Christ, published by Oxford, authors T.C. Schmidt.
Right. But again, not to sound illogical, but when you're saying he's recounting events and he was born in the 1st or 2nd century, and Jesus was at least like 70 years before that, I think, where he was like, I don't exactly remember when he was born, if it was like 045, I don't know. Like, it's still a few centuries after his death and resurrection, and when he's recounting events, it's basically him just, going through, whether he's talking to people, whether he's checking historical evidence for stuff, like there's no actual source.
Josephus is born 37 AD.
But you said 1st, 2nd century, though, didn't you?
Yeah, he writes later on in his life, but this writing is still considered like 1st century.
Okay. I totally get where you're coming from. It's just more so for me, it's hard for me to believe only because the person says it is correct, right?
No,
I understand
so you asked, so if you wanted to put the Bible to the side because for some reason you think that it's like it can't be used as evidence, although the Bible would still be historical documents.
Right, yes, of course.
Yeah. So, but you said outside of the Bible, where do you get these facts? Now, I'm giving you one. Now, this is just one source. There's other ones as well that all attest to like the facts that I brought forth. But this is one source in the 1st century as well that gives the bare minimum of the things that you would have to account for as to what best explains this event. Now, I would say that the only thing that best explains all of the facts is Jesus Christ's resurrection. I think all other theories fall short.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's just
so if Christ rose from the dead, then Christianity is true, regardless of anything.
But only because if I don't take the Bible as a source, and another book that goes hand in hand with the Bible also says is correct, doesn't necessarily mean
even if you don't take the Bible as like a super source, right? It still would be historical documents written in the 1st century about people who
historical documents, but historical.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to attest or try to figure out what accounts for these things. So give an explanation for the fact that we know that Jesus Christ died by crucifixion, We know for a fact that his disciples, or the people who followed him, firmly believed to have seen him risen from the dead. We know for a
Yes.
fact that his enemies firmly believed to have seen him risen from the dead, and the tomb is empty. Now, you need to figure out what best explains those facts and
But
gives a
only,
sufficient explanation for those things.
yeah, but again, only because it's historical documents, which is in the Bible, or historical scriptures, and it is in
Brother,
the book.
I showed you something
I
that's
know,
not in the Bible.
I know. I was about to go to that. And whether it's a book like by that guy who's also recounting like historical events, it still doesn't make it correct only because people said it was correct.
Brother, I'm asking you for what explains it. That's it. I'm just asking you what explains those things. That's all I'm asking. What explains these? Can you give me an explanation as to what happened?
What happened back
Yes.
then?
What happened? There was a man who died.
Well, we don't
Hold
deny.
on. People believed to see him risen after he was dead. People believed to see him after he was dead, so much to the point that they went on to die for the
Yeah,
fact
but
that they
people,
said that they saw him. So did his enemies,
Elijah.
and the tomb is empty. You need to tell me what
Yeah,
happened.
but people still died for people back then died for lies all the time. It's proven in historical books as well, as you're talking about. It doesn't like I get where you come from. I'm not trying to.
What do you
I'm
think
really
I'm
not
asking
trying.
you? What do you think I'm asking
I
you?
know, like, yeah, I heard what you're asking me, but I
No,
can't
what
answer it
can you
because
tell
it
me?
looks
Can you tell me what you think I'm asking you?
just more so. I don't know, dude. I don't know how to explain it, man.
Okay, so listen to my question.
Yeah.
If I told you, I said, hey, there was cookies on the chair. My niece walked in. The cookies are gone. What do you
I
think
get,
happened?
dude.
Hold on.
I get
Okay,
that. I get
so all right, so if you are able to understand that,
you counted it. I know.
I'm giving you the thing.
Right.
Christ died. People believe to see him after. The tomb is empty. What happened?
Yes, I know. Like he rose from the dead. I know what you're saying. Right?
No,
And
I'm
people.
asking you to give an explanation. According, you don't believe that he rose from the dead. I'm asking you, what do you believe happened? You
I
have to give an
believe
account for the
what
evidence.
I believe. What I believe, right, is whether it's the Bible or historical books or evidence. I just believe that they said it happened and it didn't. And even though because people said it happened or recounting all events, those events can be false because people died for lies all the time back then. So I just believe it's false. But I get you did. I asked you for evidence outside the book, and you did prove it to me, which I'm glad you did, right? And I will look into
So,
that.
on what grounds do you believe that it didn't happen?
Just more so on what grounds I believe it didn't happen. Just more so that I just believe because there wasn't. I know like this is gonna sound dumb, but there wasn't any medical records back then too. So only because people 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago said something happened doesn't mean it's I can't like put my entire life into believing something just because they said it happened. I
So
can't,
you just
bro.
don't want to believe it because you're pretty
I
much
want
saying
to
that
know.
you're pretty much saying I don't really have a reason to reject it at all. I just don't want to believe it because I want
It's
to
a pretty
live my
big reason
life
to
the
reject
way.
it. Because if I choose to devote my life to this, then that's an entire life, right? That's something big. You can't just submit to something without knowing it to be a fact.
If he actually rose from the dead, would he not be worthy of devoting your entire life to him?
Right, yes, but again,
So should
that
you not actually look into the evidence and give an account for what happened here?
I looked into evidence on that and I also talked to my priest about it and other people who are very knowledgeable. But again, everything's just circular. They just say, well, another person said it happened, recount all events, so yeah, it happened, and he rose from the dead. Only because I recount all events doesn't mean I'm correct, right? It doesn't mean it can mean I'm lying. It just I don't know. But
So
again,
hey, so when we figure out how something is historically true, right? It becomes a lot easier when you have multiple attestation to an event.
yes,
Okay?
but
So when you have multiple people attesting to an event happening and they're giving details about this event, it gives reliability for this event actually happening. Now, we're not saying that, okay, we're just going to take their word for it. We're saying take the bare minimum of all of their testimonies that we can know to be true and then try to figure out which best explains that evidence. That's it. all. So I'm asking you what best explains this evidence. The bare minimum.
Dude, but you just like you're putting me up against the wall, just like repeating it, and I'm repeating myself, and we're just not getting anywhere, dude.
Yeah,
Maybe
because
I'm just off.
you're not actually giving a reason as to why you reject it. You just don't want to
Yes, I
accept it.
did. The reason I rejected it, or against from historic, is because only because something says it happened doesn't necessarily mean it does. And I do know Jesus existed. There's proof of that. Shroud of Turin, for example. I just don't believe that the resurrection, only because recounting all events from those like from that Jewish.
Why do you think that his his disciples were willing to like get like shredded to pieces because they thought that they saw him alive again?
People died for lies all the time back then. You can
Yeah, but usually like they would like believe the lie, correct?
Yes, but
So
again, there's many
they
people
believed that they
too.
actually saw him and that they were willing to get their skin peeled off for that.
Yes,
So you believe they saw something then?
I believe that they just like again. I just believe that they died for a lie, and it's just all just like there's many religions back then too, before Christianity too, and after. Who did
Yeah,
the
but what do you
same
think?
thing.
What do you think they? Why do you think they were willing to get like chopped up, like in the pieces and split, like their skin peeled off, flesh peeled off?
Just like take billions of people away from just like just it's all just a, I don't know, manipulation in a way to believe in something that isn't there.
No, but like historically, why do you think that happened? Like, why were they willing to get like thrown off the top of buildings and their skin taken off? Like the apostles specifically.
But again, when you're saying why would they die, why would they do that? Do you have any proof of them actually doing that?
Yeah, we have historical evidence of them getting
Right.
like,
Again,
alive.
recounting old events, whether from other books. But do you have any proof of them actually doing that act? No, you don't.
That is the evidence, like bro. Like we know George Washington did something from people around him. Like we don't have a camera.
Exactly, dude. But like, it's just too old for me to only because like people are recounting events and they didn't see it happen. But it's just more so.
They did see it happen. One of them, it was literally in his city.
Yeah.
And he knew the dude, and he saw like the mob literally threw the man off the roof and stoned him after.
Yeah, but they could still die for a lie, and they can still do it just to again.
Yeah, but dude, they wouldn't believe that it was like you'd have to say that they knew it was a lie and was like, yeah, peel my skin off and my flesh for no reason, no gain. I'm poor, homeless.
Back then, people did insane things for lies and just like doing it. Just
what would be the purpose of that though?
They knew they were early humans. What do you mean? What would be the purpose?
Would you get your skin peeled off and your flesh peeled off?
Back then, we had zero technology. We had
No,
So
so
I'm
even-
just asking, like we still had the same psychology from like 2,000 years ago.
Even
Like,
back
it's not
then,
different.
people aren't dying for something they know to be a lie. Now, the thing that they firmly believe, the thing that they believe could not be true, but they sincerely believe these things to be true. So you're saying that the disciples firmly believe that they saw this person. Now, you could say that.
So I believe that what I said earlier, I said that I believe they, like the disciples, they all believe that, okay, well, we know that we're in the early lives of like humans, like, and everything. And that.
So we should just get crucified?
Yes. Let me just finish my sentence, right? Just so more for the future, they can just manipulate, just believe this thing called Christianity and just follow it blindly, only because we died for it and you can just believe it, dude.
What would be the purpose of that, though?
I told you.
Like, that's insane. Like, multiple, like, literally, like, 12 different people face, like, trials and tortures. Like, that doesn't even make sense. Hey, Elijah, I'm going to just watch Elijah get his dreads ripped off. You should do that for a lie, bro.
I just honestly, I don't understand. Like, you guys can just give all the evidence in the world, and it still won't be enough. And what doesn't make sense to me is that...
Are you Christian?
I'm Christian all the way,
okay.
of course. I believe in Jesus Christ. Yeah. I know. I'm gonna get off the panel.
Would you get your dreads yanked out? I'm just curious.
I wanted to make sure that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not just.
That just seems wild to me. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
know what crucifixion was?
Bro, dudes was burned at the stake, fed to lions.
What? And one of them literally
Yeah.
said, "I'm not worthy to be crucified in the
The
same way
same
my
way.
Savior was." Flip me
Crucify
upside
upside
down.
down, bro. What?
But it's a lie though. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
tear my flesh
but
off.
I'm curious though. I'm curious though. So like, I know atheists like that. Okay, without using the Bible, prove to me God exists. And I'm like, okay, I'll prove to you God exists without using the Bible. If you can prove to me that God does not exist without using science. The point is, you can't prove God doesn't exist. With even with science, you can't, because science is limited to
And you
only the
learned that from
natural.
Elijah, right?
Nah.
No, I didn't learn that
You
from.
Nah, say you learned it from host, please. I just need
no,
a
don't say
recording
that.
real
No, I
Do
quick.
didn't
not.
learn that from Elijah. I just did that. I just did that from just simple research and logic. The universe has a beginning because it can't be infinite. For one, two, time, space, and matter cannot be dependent of one another. I mean, cannot be independent of one another. They have to be interdependent and simultaneous at the exact same moment of their creation. Meaning, when the Earth was created, when was it created? What space did it take up? And what area of material did it fill up in that space? If none of those questions cannot be answered, then that's
Yeah,
just
you're gonna need to work on them
impossible.
premises a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking a little
True,
rough.
true. I know. Just trying to like fast pace of it, but
Nah,
yeah,
but
it's just
yeah.
I don't. So this argument that like prove to me God doesn't exist.
I
I
mean,
mean, prove to me God
you
exists.
could prove the existence of God without using the Bible.
Yeah, you can. That's what I was saying. I was
Yeah.
using their own logic
Yeah,
against
no,
it
I
without
feel
using the
you.
Bible.
Yeah, I
And I
feel you.
said, space, time, and matter can not be independent of one another. They have to be interdependent,
I mean,
logically speaking. And then one, the definition of God, like the girl that was here earlier talking about, is God Almighty? I guess she meant like, is God omnipotent or all powerful? The answer is yes, but He limited His power because He gave us free will. If if
Hey,
we didn't,
you learned. I just need you to say. I just need you to say you learned that from
nah,
Elijah.
we
I
didn't
didn't
say
learn
that.
that from Elijah. I don't only. I just recently follow his content,
I
and I've
appreciate
seen
you,
it.
bro.
Too.
We wouldn't say that
Yeah,
like
man.
he limited his power or something like that, and giving us
Yeah,
free will. But
not exactly like terms like that, but basically the play out is like, think of it this way: if we weren't allowed to make, I just seen this from one of your videos. Actually,
me
if we weren't
or
allowed,
Oh yeah,
Jordan?
hold
yes,
on.
yes,
Okay, hold
yeah,
on. Let me
your
start the
video.
screen recording real quick.
Shit.
If we weren't allowed to make mistakes or make our choices, or if we did make bad choices, and God acted right there in that moment, like of giving correction, we wouldn't have free will. Everything would be forced.
I
We would
not.
just all be.
I don't know what video you. Oh, that was not
Hey,
me.
matter
It
of
wasn't
fact,
no.
DM
It
me
was.
that
It wasn't
video.
you. It
DM
wasn't
me
you
that
because the
video.
guy.
I'm gonna make
Oh,
sure
you
I
said it wasn't
bookmark it and
me.
download.
So I'll give you context, Jordan. Let me give you context. So the dude asked, okay, what about all this suffering that goes on in this world? Like, why doesn't God just like fix the mess, like just like that? And he was like, okay, if I was God, like I would do so much of a better job. And like Elijah was like, okay, what would you do? And he was like, I
Oh, I
would
know who you
fix
talking
everybody's
about.
mistake.
I know who
Yeah,
you talking
right.
about.
And then the dude literally admitted that he wouldn't change a thing that God is doing,
I do remember that.
basically.
I do
And then
remember
right
that.
after that,
Because
Elijah said that God limited his power,
That's
correct?
not.
His eternal power.
That's
He
not
took
what I
away.
said.
He
no,
used
the
some
Hey,
point,
power
the
to take
main
away
point
his
being
power.
is
Is that what
the
he
main
said?
point being if God didn't allow us to make mistakes, or so even if He knew that we would sin and make mistakes, even if He foreseen it, does not mean He caused it. Because
yeah,
the fact is that if we didn't have the ability to love or to make choices, then by definition we wouldn't have free will.
yeah.
Everything would just be enacted right then and there. We wouldn't be able to actually have a relationship and truly follow God because it all would just be obedience and force. That wouldn't be love. It's just like force stuff. And like you can give the same as like Cliff Canetta, like it says, right? All right, if a guy says to his girlfriend that like, prove to me that you love me by having, coercion with me. And I don't know if I can actually say the term because of TikTok guidelines, but you know what I mean, right? That's not true love. Any real person would say that.
No,
So
yeah.
if you give the same analogy to God, then the answer is that if God didn't love us, then to say that well he allows all the suffering just simply is not true. It's the absence. The reason why we have evil and like sin in this world
Oh,
is
bro,
because
bro,
it's the lack.
I listen. I gotta move on to the next guest because
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 2 hours and I'm gonna have to go.
Okay. Yeah. I
I
regret that.
appreciate you coming up, bro. God bless you.
But yeah, God bless you, man. Good.
Shout out to Drano. I'm not gonna hold you, bro. That's a wild name. Hey, can you talk to Jordan real quick?
Yeah, I'll talk to whoever.
For sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
All right. Not much. What's going on with you guys?
Not much. You Christian?
No,
Why aren't you Christian, bro?
no, I'm not. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that I'm not Christian. I was a Christian for most of my life. What the heck, Ashley? What's up, Ashley? Sorry, someone in the chat. I was a Christian for most of my life. I was going to school to be a pastor. Did not end up doing that. But one of the reasons I guess I'm not a Christian is because, or one of many, I'll give you two reasons. One is the evidence. I just don't see any reason to believe in this Christian God. I know you guys just had a conversation about that. But also I think that, I don't think that the God in the Bible, Yahweh, deserves worship based on the things that he has done. If the Bible's true, you know?
Would you believe in Christianity if it was true?
Would I believe in Christianity? Like if God came down and was like, hey, I'm real?
Sure, if it was true.
Oh yeah, I'd believe. I wouldn't worship him though.
So you wouldn't be a Christian?
Yeah. So even if
Yeah,
Christianity was
by
true,
definition,
you wouldn't be a
yeah,
Christian.
I would not be a follower of Christ, no.
So why'd you come up?
Well, to answer your question, and I guess to see maybe if you could answer some of mine.
I mean, I can. Sure. We can.
Well, I was just answering your question. Isn't that the whole goal of
we
your
can-
life?
Yeah, but I mean, hopefully we want like people to come up that are actually be willing to follow Christ if it's presented to them as true. You said that like, even if it was true, you wouldn't be willing to follow Christ. But we could maybe it'd be edifying to some people in the chat. So you could ask your questions and then we can move on.
Yeah, that's fine. So I guess if you guys, I know you just had the conversation about evidence, so you probably don't want to go down that route, right?
What's your question?
Well, I was going to ask you what evidence do you have that has convinced you to be a Christian?
Jordan, do you wanna take this one since I just went?
I'm ordering Chick-fil-A right now, so I'm gonna read.
That sounds good. Okay. So the things that convinced me to be Christian, the existence of God, definitely one. The historical evidence for the resurrection is another. The metaphysical arguments as well. The prophecies, the miracles that still happen today, stuff like that.
Okay. So I guess just to choose one of those, I know that was a lot. I feel like the metaphysical stuff just gets you to a God and not necessarily Yahweh. If you can, I don't know if
I mean,
that's
if you
right, or
wanna
if you have.
No, I think you can get to a God that only one God feels. I would say that. I don't think that you can prove like the Trinity from pure reason, but I think that there are arguments that go to show that at least this God that exists has to be multi-personal. So I think the metaphysical arguments can get you to a very specific God that has to be one in essence, but multi-personal. And I think the Christian God is the only one that fits that description.
Okay, see, that part is the part that I would have issue with, because as you may know or may not, there's tens of thousands of religions.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if it's
So,
that many, but
so yeah, I don't know the exact number either. I just know there's a lot.
okay.
And I know personally, as a person who's actually like very interested in this type of thing, I haven't even, I don't even know about every single one of those. So to say that Christianity is the only religion that whose God meets those characteristics, I feel like that. I don't know if that's
I mean, I've looked it
honest.
up and I haven't seen one. So apparently, like Google nor scholars know about it either.
So you're saying you know about every single God that humans believe in?
No, you could look up like which religions serve a multi-personal God that's one in essence, but like is distinct in person. Nothing else shows up. It's just Christianity.
I feel
Everything else
like
talks about like polytheism, tritheism, or some other type of thing where they're actually separate beings, which is not what the metaphysical argument would be talking about.
so you're saying that you honestly believe that yours is the only one that has those characteristics
Yeah,
on the planet, like globally.
yeah.
Okay.
I haven't
mean,
seen. I haven't seen any. Do you have any evidence to show me
no, no,
otherwise?
no, no. But I wouldn't make the claim that Christianity is the
I
only
mean,
one that
otherwise
has a
it's just
God.
gonna be Christianity, and also we can look at the Bible and see like prophecy and stuff fulfilled. So like it's just
Sure, yeah. So we can talk about prophecy, but I was talking specifically about the claim that the metaphysical argument could get us to Yahweh. I don't think that it can. Maybe it can
Do
get
you
us to the
know?
existence
Do
of
you
a
know
God.
another? Do you know another multi-personal God that is one in essence and distinct in person?
No, 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 I don't. So I'm not. But I'm not claiming that Christianity is the only one that does so and so.
Okay,
I'm saying
so
I don't. I don't know.
so
It
you
could.
just don't have any proof of anything else. But when we have
No, no,
positive
no. I'm saying.
evidence,
I'm
like
saying there could be a religion out there that is exact meets
but if
those.
there's not,
it would just be Christian. Like
yeah, like,
like
No, 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 no. I'm saying there could be another one. Is what I'm saying.
or is there?
I don't know, but I'm saying
it
that
could be
by
a
So
use.
flying
as
donkey
of
in
so
space.
as of right now, if we can use a metaphysical argument to show that God has to be multi-personal at least, then Christianity would be the only one under your knowledge right now that would fit that bill.
Yeah, under what I know right now, sure, but that doesn't mean that it's the only one.
You would just have to find that other one.
Yeah, sure. But what I'm saying is you can't say that it's the only one because you don't know either. You
No, I
believe.
said that I looked into it. Nothing else popped up.
I
So
know that you said that, but like I don't
It
think
just
that
seems like you're trying to find loopholes out of this.
I don't think that you've had enough time on the planet to look into every single religion on the planet.
Can you prove that it's not the case? That
why do I need that much time to?
Yeah, so actually I believe in a God who's meets the exact same standards that the God of the Bible does. It's my own
so
religion.
it's just the God of the Bible.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. It's my God.
Your God's tri-personal. He's a Trinity.
His name's Liam. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're just calling the
he's
God of the Bible just
Liam. Yeah.
Liam.
Yeah.
No, no, no. My God is the God of
If it meets the
being.
qualities of the God of the Bible, you're just using the same referent and just calling it a
So
different name.
Yeah.
so my God, all of the children who are healed of cancer and end up surviving, that's my God. My God's responsible for all of that.
So your
stuff.
God doesn't exist.
No, he exists. He exists. I actually have a book about him written 2,000 years ago, and it
Okay.
talks about Liam.
What does the
there's
book
over
say?
there's over 600 witnesses to
What does
Liam's
the book say?
existence.
Like,
It
what's
says
the
that
book
he is
say?
God, that he created everything,
Okay.
and that he loves everyone,
Okay.
and his name is Liam.
Okay. What's the book then?
Yeah.
It's my Bible. It's just
Where-
called the
yeah.
Bible.
It's just called the
It's
Bible.
the Bible, but it's a Bible means collection of books. So what books are in it?
Yeah. So the name on the cover is Bible. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
And his name is
What's
Liam.
the collection in the book though?
It's
Like,
just a
what's the
It's a
content of this
collection of
book?
letters written by people who believed and followed Liam.
Where can we see this?
I can send you a copy.
Not just
Yeah, send it to Elijah.
Yeah, I got you. I'll email it to
Or if
you.
we could look it up, that would be cool too. If it
Yeah.
was online.
It's not really something that can be looked up at the moment.
Why
I'm still
not?
working on getting
Yeah,
it out
so I
there.
don't. Based off
What are
of
you-
this,
how
I
are you
don't see any
working
evidence
on?
to believe
Yeah,
that
how are
this
you
is
working
true.
on getting it out there? And it's also
not
2,000
convinced.
years old.
That's why I do these lives. I get on here and I tell people about
But
it. But my
it's-
point is
you're
that
saying
I'm not
is that
convinced.
this
Like, you're not showing any evidence of this,
my point
and I have no other reason to believe that this
Yeah.
isn't just
you don't
the
have
God
to
of Bible
believe
name.
it. You don't have to believe
No,
it.
there's
I'm
no-
Yeah, I
telling
mean,
you that,
usually we use evidence in order
so
to do
my
things,
my
but I'm not
point my
convinced.
point in telling you this is that there is another God out there who meets the
I'm not
same
convinced.
criteria.
What's the evidence for
It's
this?
okay. I believe in it.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
don't
you
have
can,
you
but
don't
just
have
don't
to
have
think that it's
evidence.
real. But my point is that there are thousands
so
of religions
I don't think it's
that
real.
you
So
don't know that what people believe or what their
that's
gods.
irrelevant. There's thousands of numbers that I can't name. That doesn't
No,
mean that
it
1
is
+ 1 doesn't
relevant.
equal
It is
2.
relevant to my point that I made earlier
It's not.
about you saying that your metaphysical argument could get us to Yahweh.
You just
when
made
have
up a God that's literally Yahweh and
It's not
called him
made up.
Liam.
You have no evidence to suggest that I made that
I know
up.
it's not made up because he's Yahweh and you're just calling him Liam. That's all
No,
you're
no,
doing.
no. It's not. I just told you it's not Yahweh. It's not the God of the Bible.
Yeah, but I'm
My God
convinced you're
doesn't
just calling the
condone.
God of Bible
My
Liam.
God doesn't condone slavery or
I mean, the
the
God of
slaughter
Bible
of
doesn't condone
of
slavery
infants.
too, so you still haven't
He
met
does.
the.
He does. We don't
You
have to
still
go
haven't
down that
met
route.
the.
But my point is that
No, you still haven't met the
you don't.
qualification.
No. My point. I wasn't trying to qualify anything. You guys, neither of you know all of the other religions that are out there, what people believe, what gods they believe in.
That's
And I'm telling you
irrelevant.
that
We
I
have
believe in a
evidence for
God.
Christianity being true, so it's irrelevant.
We're not talking about evidence.
Oh, we're not talking about
This
evidence.
is
What are
not.
we talking about? You're just
This
making
is
up
not a.
deities now?
This is not
This
an
is.
argument about evidence. This
Let's
is an
go to the
argument about
Build a
whether or
God
not
workshop, the
this
Build
is
a God
this is
factory.
this is an argument about whether or not you
This
guys
isn't an argument. What are
know.
your premises? Like, what's the reason for this argument? What
Okay,
is this supposed to
the
do?
reason that I'm bringing this up is because host said that they had a metaphysical argument that could lead them only to Yahweh, the Christian God. I
Yeah, it
said
gives us
there's no
evidence
way
of
that you
it.
could know that because you don't know all the gods that people worship.
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't even follow.
What doesn't follow?
It could lead you to the Christian God, Yahweh, and then you're just saying that you don't know
No, no,
that
no,
because
no,
you
no.
don't know
What
other
what
gods.
Elijah said is that his metaphysical argument could lead only to the Christian God.
That it will lead to. I said it will lead to a multi-personal God, and the
Yeah,
only
and you said,
religion that has a God that is one in being and multi-personal is the Christian God.
and then what I said was, there's no way that you can know that Christianity is the only one that meets those multi-personal criteria because you don't know what gods people believe in. And I introduced to you a God that
I
I
have no
believe in.
evidence to believe in Liam,
You don't have to believe in him. That's not the point.
so I'm just gonna
I'm
take
s-
the evidence that Yahweh is the God,
no, the point. I'm not trying to prove
that
to you that
Yahweh's the
Liam
only
exists.
God.
I'm not trying to prove to you that Liam exists. I'm trying to prove.
He's just trolling. That went on long enough. That was 12 minutes.
I'm just not convinced.
Hello?
Me?
Yeah, hello?
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Uh, sorry, bro. Can't hear you. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Sorry. I'm new at this TikTok thing. Hey man, I
I
just
feel like
called to
I've
have
seen that
honestly a
TikTok.
pleasant, hopefully productive conversation. I think I can raise the bar over the last caller. I'm gonna give it a shot,
I
okay?
mean, that wouldn't be too hard, but
Okay.
Okay. That was like semi-trolling.
so you can full troll is what you're saying.
No. We can either, I can give you some background, or I can answer your question of, I just been listening for a couple calls today. I can answer your question of, if there was evidence, like, would I believe? So let me give you a weird answer and just see what you think, okay? So, I was a Christian for 40 years. I'm 61.
You already told us this though.
Oh, did I? Okay,
Yeah,
so you
but
remember
you say you were new to TikTok, but you told us this 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so you remember me. Awesome, thank you. Um,
But why would you say you were new?
Go ahead. What?
What's new to you though? Like,
What do you mean? What do you mean? What's new?
you say you were new to TikTok, like this was one of your first times on here, but
My
you
second call on TikTok.
So your second call is with the same person that you had a
Yeah,
call with 2 weeks ago?
yeah. Because I was, and it's amazing that I was here that I'm here because like I'd say 3 months ago, there's something people go through when they deconstruct, and I call it the atheist hate stage. And I think what it is that you're mostly mad at yourself because you see things in a different light.
And you feel that everybody lied to you. Yeah.
No, it's not.
That
No,
everything you knew was a lie.
no.
Oh, so everything you knew was true.
Dude, can I just tell you what I think without you putting words in my mouth?
I was just trying to help because it was kind of delaying
I
because
don't need
Elijah has to go in a
help.
little bit.
I don't need help answering a single question here. I really, truly don't. So, what was your question? If you have any question,
I can't help you because you said you don't need help answering a single question.
so you can't help me because I said I can answer my own questions and don't want answers provided for me.
Brother, you just asked me not to help you answer like the question. You asking me for
I'd
help
like
with answering the question.
I'd like you to let me answer with my own words before you tell me.
That's what I was letting you do.
What's your question?
I don't have one.
What's up, bro? What you come up here for?
I have some answers like to the resurrection stuff. If I was involved in the resurrection story, I would bring up a theory that I haven't totally followed yet. It's called. Let me just give you a little. Can I just answer that question about would you believe and what's evidence, and like you asked the last caller, and point you to Romans 12:9.
Bro, just present your objection.
Romans 12. I'm answering your question. I'm not presenting
I'm gonna
evidence.
ask you a question.
Okay, I started answering. First of all,
What about Romans 12:9?
Okay, you hang on. You just said you didn't have a question. I'm trying to answer the question of the previous caller because you wanted to know if that dude would believe if he had evidence. And my simple answer to you that I'm trying to get out,
You already answered that for us last week. Well, 2 weeks ago.
In light of Romans 12:9, I would, if I was presented that like if I were to believe that the Bible was true, I would also believe that I'm a vessel of wrath and that I exist to experience the wrath of God so that he can with power.
God's judgments is righteous.
Bring up Romans 12:9.
Let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good.
I think you mean Romans chapter 9 or
12:9. I don't. Let me bring it up. Excuse the keyboard clicking. I thought it was Romans 12:9.
Let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good.
It doesn't sound like the right verse. Hang
You're
on.
talking about Romans 9, brother. It's Romans 9,
outdo
chapter
one
22.
another in
I mean,
showing
Romans chapter 9, verse 22. That's what he's talking about.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Sound like you
So
needed
you think
his
you were
help.
made for destruction?
I could be. I mean, if I believe that it's true, I mean, if I were to, if I were to literally believe that this was true, I would have no other choice than to believe this because from where I sit, I cannot, I can't see today right now that I can say out loud that I believe Jesus Christ rose from the dead in my heart.
You just said that if you were to believe, then you would believe.
Like if someone I knew.
Romans chapter 9, verse 22.
Let's say someone I knew grew a limb back or something, and if that were to happen, like
you understand that you just said if you were to be given the evidence and you were to believe, like, you would think that you're a Romans chapter 9, verse 22 individual.
Yeah, I would, and it's based on the fact that I don't see, and this leads back to the Yahweh thing, but I don't see me believing in my heart that Jesus rose from the dead, and that is the chief, requirement to escape wrath. And I mean, I know it sounds stupid.
And there's a little bit more than that.
But that's my answer. And if you guys want to have a conversation about any of this stuff, that's fine. If I would appreciate it
Why
if I
wouldn't here? Just let us know why you wouldn't believe in the resurrection.
well, I heard you ask a person. It's a long answer. I want to make it short as possible. I heard you ask a person, "What's your gripe with the religion?" My gripe with the religion is that I believe it.
brother.
Okay,
I
so
mean, you might as well just let him. You might as well just let him get this out
Grant, you
here.
might.
That
Well,
was like
well,
5 people ago.
Woken Stoke.
Yeah.
I've been live for over 2 hours, right? I've talked to a lot of guests where it just goes in one ear and out the other. At some point, man, like it gets a little tough to have the conversations. You've been up here for 7 minutes now. You've answered questions that have been asked to other guests and not answered questions that's directly asked to you. So I'm
Okay.
asking you specifically, just tell me why you wouldn't accept the resurrection. I personally, right now, don't need the
Okay.
answer to the question from other guests.
Because this religion causes so much harm to society, I don't see how a good God can be behind it.
So what does that have to do with Jesus Christ, whether or not he historically rose from the dead?
I don't see how a religion that destroys critical thinking and empathy, both of which are critical survival
How does it destroy critical thinking?
They are. I'll get to that. Let me finish real
What's that
quick.
have to do with anything?
Clearly, nothing has anything to do with it. We might as well just answer something at this point.
Yeah, they're critical survival skills to our species. So I'm here because of that. And how does it do it? I'll answer that now. Are you guys done laughing? Because I'm not going to crash.
How do you know it's critical to our
Doing
species?
this. This is like my 18th hour of this in the last 2 days. I had 2 hours of sleep last night. On top of being in at least 8 hours of panels, I've been in 6 hours of modding Thinkers Live. So I'm here on
I thought you said this was the second time you was on a panel.
Yeah, he's been lying the whole time. That's what I'm telling you.
TikTok. I've only been on TikTok twice. I swear to God, this is my second TikTok call.
You don't believe in God. What are you swearing to? You don't believe in God. What are you swearing to?
Did I say swear to God? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know.
I mean, how does it destroy critical thinking?
I identify with you. I've been up doing this just like you for 30 years ago. When I retired 3 years ago, I decided that
Brother, you are giving us your entire history, your social security number, everything. I just wanted to know how it destroys critical thinking skills.
Because it encourages circular reasoning, and it also encourages.
How does it encourage circular reasoning?
Blaming. Well, I'll tell you. I went into your chat a few weeks ago with numbers 11. And instead of any kind of rational discussion, I got a bunch of circular reasoning. And your Muslim.
Where does Christianity support that? That's what I'm asking.
For example, if you can listen, your Muslim buddy in there committed the ultimate circular sin and said God didn't lie because God can't lie. And if I were to take that sentence and put it in a textbook, okay, my publisher would make me take it out because he would think I was.
You said Muslim?
Textbook. I'm not a Muslim.
You said my Muslim buddy?
Yeah, don't you guys have a dude in there, that art guy who's
What would that have to do with Christianity?
Nothing. I'm just commenting, dude. I'm just trying to have
Amen.
Do you guys question everything?
So
you guys find stuff.
Maybe you should get a little bit of sleep.
Yeah,
and then come back on Elijah's live. Make sure you put his notifications on too.
Get a little bit
because I know he loves
bit of sleep, bro. Like in all seriousness, 2 hours of sleep isn't healthy for absolutely anyone. That's not what you were created for.
Like you should sleep, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
Please get some sleep and then catch me next live.
And then come back on his live. Make sure you have his notifications on.
Jordan might go live.
I don't usually go live, so that's not
yes. Jordan might go live.
But you should go. Make sure you put the little bell. Click the bell.
I have a friend who's really good. His name is Cam, CAM. He has like a purple profile picture. He goes live as well. Really good.
Or that one dude that just commented right now, definitely Mike Markham, Shia Mormons. He would love to talk to you as well.
Yeah.
You should follow him. Wherever live he goes on, just follow him.
I don't really like TikTok. I like StreamYard stuff and YouTube. I'm gonna peruse YouTube for a while. I think I don't really like the TikTok interface. I can't read the chat window. It only works on a phone.
Yeah.
It's just clunky.
Since I'm a programmer for 40 years, 35 years, I like a screen and a PC, and I don't like this phone stuff.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you, man. I pray, please go get some rest, go get some sleep, man. Eat something, and then, feel free to come back.
You guys are funny.
You said what?
I said, you guys are funny. You're characterizing me as all exhausted and out of sleep and pushing me off. Go ahead and drop me. It's fine.
We don't
I
think
mean,
you're
if
exhausted, brother.
if
We
you
just
say
saying sleep is
if
good.
you want me to drop you so bad, I was just saying to
We care
get
about
some
your
sleep.
health, and the health is not looking too good right now. That's
Here
why
you
I'm
go,
just-
Jordan. The chosen Jewish apologetics.
I think my food got here. Hold on.
Hold on, 1 second. My fault, bro. Y'all the last two guests. Chosen, are you Christian?
Nah, Jewish.
Great.
Oh, Shabbat
Oh,
Shalom.
Well,
Oh yeah, that voice sound familiar too.
yeah, I think I know. Are you the Ezra dude?
nah.
I feel like I talked to you. Are you only Deegans?
No, I think you've talked to me before. I think we've talked, but I don't think it's been a bit though.
Okay. And user,
Y'all
what are
did
you?
apologetics like that.
So I'm not a Christian because many apostles, including Matthew, misappropriate scripture to fit Jesus. When my claim is that scripture would be impossible to be talking about Jesus. So not only can it maybe be Jesus, it would be impossible. And I'm going to show that.
You said Isaiah 53 it's impossible for that to be Jesus.
No, I'm giving my first example. I'm going to give it Isaiah 7.
Okay,
too.
for sure.
We can,
So you
Isaiah
say
53. Isaiah 53, you can interpret to talk about Jesus in your own way, but again, you would be mistranslating scripture.
so you say Isaiah chapter 7 verses 13 and
Isaiah
14
7:14
isn't
is the
about
most-
Jesus?
Not at all, and I'll prove it to you how it's impossible to talk about Jesus.
Okay, go ahead.
So we'll start with Isaiah 7:11, about who is this sign directed for, and what is the purpose of the sign.
Yeah.
Because we see in 7:1-2 that there's two kingdoms rising,
Yep.
Rezin and Ephraim, and there's an alliance made with Israel to attack Judah and destroy the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So God sends Isaiah to Ahaz to present him and ask for a sign,
Okay.
so to help the kingdom of Judah and the house of David
Mm-hmm.
to understand that they will not be taken over by Judah. So if we look at Isaiah 7:11 and we read it, and we keep you can laugh, or you can read the scripture.
No,
You wanna read it?
I'm laughing because Jordan left me up here by myself. That's cool.
You want me to read it, or you want to read it?
Isaiah chapter 7 verse 11.
Yeah, 11-16.
Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be here. Can I read from the ESV? I'm not trying to go you be having me try to go to the website. I'm not trying to do all that right now.
No, I won't argue the Alma thing. I can do that later. I'm just gonna argue context. For
That's
now. So you can
that's fine. All right.
read it any way you want. Go ahead.
Ask a sign of the Lord your God. Let it be deep as Sheol or high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask. I will not put the Lord to test. And he said, Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you, two weary men, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey when he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the boy knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land whose two kings you dread will be deserted.
Great. So 7:16 clearly draws the line, first of all, with the timeline, because those two kingdoms historically were deserted at 732 BCE. That's when they were deserted. 700 years before Jesus was even born. That's the first thing to understand. Because it says, before the boy knows how to choose between good and evil, those two kingdoms that you dread will be deserted or laid waste. That's the first thing. The second thing to understand is it's directed at Ahaz and the house of David.
Yeah.
Now, the house of David does not change it from Ahaz, because we see that when Ahaz refuses and God responds with, now you weary men, now you're going to weary your God, he's responding to Ahaz. Ahaz is representative of the house of David. He's the king of Judah. You can disagree with it, but you'd have to explain why, when Ahaz refuses, the response from Isaiah, which is really through God, is House of David, why do you weary men? Now you weary the Lord. So who's the one wearing the Lord? Who's the one who refused the sign? It's obviously Ahaz. There's no one
Yeah,
else who refused.
I think even in the Hebrew it shows that it's not speaking to Ahaz. The speaker changes. But keep going so that
No,
everybody can
dressed
understand
as the house of David. It's dressed as the house of David, which is the forefront of that is Ahaz. He's the king of the house of David.
Yeah, so keep going so people can understand your point. I don't agree with
Yeah,
your
so the
interpretation. I don't
point,
think it's supported by the text.
well, it is, because 716 draws the timeline for when the boy grows up to a certain age before, which means he's at a young age, because before he knows how to choose between good and evil.
Which boy is that?
Yeah, it's Emmanuel.
I would disagree with that too.
Is his name not called Emmanuel? Is that not his name?
Emmanuel is God. So
No,
that
Emmanuel's
boy-
not God.
Yeah.
Emmanuel meaning God with us.
Yeah.
And contextually, we understand why is that a sign? Because it shows that God is with the kingdom of Judah and they won't fall to Israel. It makes no sense for that sign to be Jesus for Ahaz or for the house of David if it's for the purpose of showing how those kingdoms will be deserted and they won't fall to Israel. If that happened 700 years before Jesus,
So
that does not make sense. That won't be Jesus.
So okay, cool. So now do you want to hear the answer?
But you can give me your answer, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to support
so,
it both.
Yeah, exactly. So you quoted Isaiah chapter 7, verses 1 through 2, and you skipped over verse 3 because it seems like it's not important, but it's very important for the context. Because the Lord says to Isaiah to go out and meet Ahaz, you and shear Jashub, your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway. So Isaiah brings forth his son in order to go and meet Ahaz. Now, you are correct in the sense that the Lord begins speaking to Ahaz, and he's talking about these two kingdoms. And yes, that's fine. When he is speaking to Ahaz, you will notice that all the verbs here are in the Hebrew in singular. He is speaking directly to Ahaz. The speaker or the person who's being spoken to then changes from verse 13 and verse 14 and then back into the singular in verse 16. You can look at the verbs here. When it says hear then or listen in the Hebrew, this is plural because he's speaking to the house of David as a whole.
Yeah,
He's
hold
on. He's bypass because they're speaking to the house of Israel as a whole. He bypasses. Hold on. Because Ahaz declines a sign. He's not telling the sign to Ahaz. He's giving the sign to Israel that the messianic line is going to be preserved, even though these nations are coming against them. Which is hold on. I let you give your case. So when he says, "Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary men that you should weary my God also? Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign." All of this is in plural. He is speaking directly to the house of David. Now, when it switches in verse 16 back to the singular, he is speaking to Ahaz, and he says, before the boy, which boy? The one who's talked about in verse 3, who the Lord specifically tells Isaiah to bring before Ahaz. Before this boy grows up and he learns right from wrong, the two nations that you dread will be deserted.
Yeah, so that doesn't work at all. Because the son, very simply, the son coming to him is not a sign. The point of the sign, which
the sign is given to Israel, to the house of David.
Hold on. No, it's not. And first of all, the house of David is not Israel. The house of David is the dynasty. It's the royal dynasty.
Yeah.
The head of the royal dynasty is Ahaz. Every time house of David is used in the plurality because it's the house of David. For you to say it's the Messiah makes zero sense. Because again, 7:16 clearly says, before the boy knows the truth, seeing good and evil, those two kingdoms will be deserted. Talking about that same son. The son who is coming with Ahaz is not a sign. There's no place where he's a sign for Ahaz.
The son that's coming.
The son you mentioned in 7:3, which we can go to, by the way, where it says, go out to meet Ahaz and say unto him, take heed and be quiet, do not fear, do not let your heart be faint because of these two smoking firebrands. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it says, immediately, do not fear these two kings.
So the sign, if you're saying that this sign is the one that's given to Ahaz, what was the characterization of this sign?
Yeah, so the point of the sign, the characterization, is to show that God is with the house of David.
No. It says, so God specifically, God specifically, I think last time we talked, we was talking too fast that a lot of the chat couldn't follow. But God specifically characterizes this sign as high as heaven or as low as the depths of Sheol. So this is a miraculous sign. This is a miracle that is going to happen.
No, it's not necessarily a miracle. It's not true.
Well,
The
when
miracle,
God characterizes this sign as high as the heavens or as low as the depths of Sheol, he's characterizing this sign as something miraculous, not something non-miraculous.
That's a misinterpretation, because the
How is
sign
that a
itself.
misinterpretation?
I'm gonna prove it to you, because the sign there is to show what that miracle or miraculous thing is supposed to happen. The evidence that that sign is real is when those two kingdoms that Judah is afraid of becomes deserted. When they're wiped out by God's will, that's the evidence of a miraculous thing. The sign itself, Emmanuel, being God with us, is to reassure Ahaz and to reassure Judah. This is proven contextually. Why Emmanuel means God with us. God is with the house of David. That's the whole point. The whole point of the sign is to show God is with them. Because that's what Ahaz was afraid of. He was afraid that if God wasn't with them and Israel was going to come invade and Ephraim was going to come invade, Judah is going to fall. Contextually, this sign does not point to two sons. The sun in 7:3 is not the sign.
It literally does.
Great. Where's the sun in 7:3 supposed to be a sign to reassure Ahaz? A sign.
No,
a sign.
The sign, the thing in 7:3. So when God specifically tells Isaiah to bring his son Shear-Jashub before the king, and you can see the change in speakers, although it's not as evident in the English, it is evident in the Hebrew as to who's being addressed. Because when the Lord is speaking to Ahaz, he is speaking in the singular. When he's speaking to the entire house of David, he is speaking in the plural. And it switches from the plural to the singular in between verse 15 and verse 16 when he begins speaking to Ahaz again. So when he references the boy in verse 15, you can see the shift in speaker from 15 and 16 as to who's being talked about and who's being spoken to in 15 and 16 in the Hebrew. So when he's talking about the boy in verse 16, he's talking about who Ahaz can actually see, which is the boy that the Lord told Isaiah to bring before him, named Shear-Jashub. And before this boy gets old enough, the two kingdoms that you fear will be brought down to destruction.
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense.
What Isaiah does, and he does this kind of often, but what Isaiah does is he puts a long-term prophecy, which is going to be the preservation of the messianic line, preservation of Judah. He gives that long-term prophecy that the virgin is going to conceive and bear a child and is going to be God with us. And he couples that with a short-term prophecy with the boy Shear-Jashub growing up. And before that boy grows up, the two kingdoms that you fear will be destroyed.
Yeah, here's the problem with that, is you're conflating two prophecies that don't go good together. 7:3 says, when the Lord said to Isaiah, go out to meet Ahaz, you and Shear-Yashuv. What does that mean? Do you know what Shear-Yashuv means in Hebrew?
No.
Yeah, it means a remnant shall return. That's what it means. So his name...
Shear-Yashuv means a remnant shall return?
Yes, Shear-Yashuv, which means a remnant shall return. That's what it means in Hebrew.
I have to look that up.
You can check it up. Go ahead. Which is the evidence, a sign that a remnant will return. It's not the same sign as 7:16 at all, because 7:16 is showing is a sign.
Are you saying sign?
Yes, a sign to evidence something.
Hold on. Ahaz refuses a sign, right?
That sign Ahaz refuses?
No.
Is the one...
No. He refuses a sign before anything is even presented.
He refuses to ask.
He refuses a sign.
No, hold on. He refuses to ask for a sign. That's what he does. He refuses to ask for a sign. Great.
He refuses. God tells him to ask for a sign to be shown to him, and he refuses a sign.
He refuses to ask for the sign.
Yes, so a sign is not shown to Ahaz. A sign is shown to the house of David.
No, again, you're conflating the two. The house of... if that were true, by the way, if you're going by that claim, that the house of David is completely separate from Ahaz, it wouldn't make any sense for God to respond to Ahaz's refusal and say, house of David, why do you weary men and why do you weary your God? Where anywhere did the people of... First of all, you have to prove this to me. Where anywhere did the king before Ahaz, the whole house of David...
Brother.
Hold on,
wait. Are you in America? Are you... All right, fine. Go ahead.
If we take your opinion, which is that the house of David is talking about the royal line, which we can agree with, and the Messiah, that's an issue. Because God responds to Ahaz when he refuses and says, why, O house of David, do you weary men and now weary your God? Who's the one wearing your God? It's not the Messiah. Messiah is not even here yet. It can't be the Messiah wearing God, and it can't be the previous kings before that. The only king that's representative of the house of
What?
David that is wearying God by refusing to ask for the sign is Ahaz.
No.
The
Okay,
only king.
okay.
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on,
the
hold
only
on.
king.
Wait. So we're not saying, and mind you, anybody in the chat, let me know if you guys aren't following. But so here, when it says, "Hear then, O house of David," right? We're not saying that, oh, this is the Messiah that's wearying God. No. We're saying that the son that is born is the Messiah. But the house of David is just the house of David that has wearied God.
No, so who okay, so let me ask you. Who in the house of David, other than King Ahaz, is wearying God right now?
All of the house of David, all of Israel,
No.
all of
Hold
Judah,
on. That's not Israel. House of David, hold on. All of Israel is not the house of David.
all of
The house of
Judah.
David means, no, it's not Judah. The house of David is the royal line. That's what it is.
Yes.
What
But
is that?
it's
Great.
of a specific people. So
No,
these
so
people
who
are
in the
clean.
royal line is doing that?
Yeah,
Who in the royal line?
these people are clinging on. So everybody who is of Israel, the house of David is of Israel, right?
No, it's not. Israel is separate from Judah, and it's not. It's the kingship of Judah.
They set. Oh my days. They
That's what it
separate.
is.
They okay. So you're telling me that David wasn't an Israelite?
David wasn't an Israelite.
Yes.
No, there was the
When
northern kingdom of Israel and the southern
that
kingdom of
happens
Judah.
later on in 2 Samuel.
No, Israel's rising up here. Israel
In
made an alliance here.
First Samuel, all of Israel is united.
Yeah, Israel's a separate kingdom here. You want me to prove it to you?
No, you don't need to prove that to me. I understand the distinction, but when they're talking about the entire nation of Israel, or when
That's all
all of
they're
these,
talking about.
when they're talking about the entire nation of Israel, they're talking about all the separate higher 10 kingdoms and the lower kingdoms.
No, they're not talking about the complete. They're not talking about the whole Israel. The house of David is just the royal line.
It
Just the
depends
royal
on
line.
hold on. It depends on the context.
Yes, the context here is very clear. The representative of the house of David, which is King Ahaz, is asked by God to ask for a sign. He refuses. God then responds to him, "O house of David, why do you weary men and also
So
weary your God?"
who is he
Who's
talking to
wearing
when he
God?
says, "Oh house of David"?
Ahaz.
Okay,
Ahaz is
here, I need you
representative of
to,
the house of David.
that makes no sense. I need you to
Yes,
imagine it like this.
it does.
If I, say for instance, if I got a lot of money, I got a lot of power. I go to the president, right, Trump, and I'm like, hey, ask anything of me and I'll give it to you. And Trump like, bro, I'm not gonna ask you nothing. So I bypass him and I say, Americans, ask anything of me and I will give it to
He's not saying
you.
Americans. Okay, again, he's not
He's
saying Americans.
Okay,
The house
so
of David is not Americans. It's
look.
hold
When
on.
he's speaking
Let
to,
me explain this. Let me explain this.
bro, hold on, because you haven't given
Making a mistake.
you haven't given an explanation. When he's speaking to Ahaz, in the Hebrew, he uses first person singular pronouns.
The house of David is always plural. It's the
It's
house.
not just the house of David. It's not just the house of David.
Yes, it is. Okay, if
No,
that's the case.
I'm saying that that's
hold
not
on.
the only thing in Hebrew that is used as a second person plural.
Yeah, no, hold on. The only thing used here in Hebrew when responding to Ahaz's refusal is the house of David, which is the royal line. Now, you may be asking, this makes sense to you. Why would he not just say, "Oh, Ahaz, why'd you not refuse?" Because Ahaz is the representational head, like Trump, for example, of the Judah, of the house of David. He represents all of them. So for example, if Trump were to refuse a peace deal with another country, they would say, the United States government is refusing a peace deal. So to here, the house of David, which is ran by Ahaz, is refusing to ask for a sign. That's what it is. It's not that, oh, the house of David is some future messianic thing. If that were true, he wouldn't respond to Ahaz and say, why are you weary men and you weary your God? So who is wearying God other than Ahaz? And don't say the people of Judah, because it's the house of David, the royal line. So is the Messiah wearying God right now? Is the Messiah alive?
The house of David is the Judean tribe.
No, it's not.
Where do you get that it's not from?
Okay, I'll just give you proofs. I'll give you multiple evidence that the house of David, by every Christian, including I think nobody too, agrees. The house of David is the royal line. That's why, for example,
That's
it says
from the tribe of Judah.
Obviously, in the essence, it's from the tribe of Judah. But when addressing the people of Judah, which is mean the entire people of Judah, you would say the people of Judah. You would not say the house of David, because the house of David is the royal line. It's the royal lineage. It's not
Yes,
talking
yes.
people of Judah.
So
It's specifically royal.
thank you. So what God is saying is that he's going to protect the royal lineage. You have this prophecy as proof that a virgin, which is a sign that is high as heaven and low as depth of
It's not a virgin.
Sheol,
It's not a virgin.
that yes it is. That
No, it's not.
yes it is.
Okay.
That
I'll prove it to you.
sure, we could go into that too. That the virgin inside the as high as the sign is as high as heavens and as low as the depths of Sheol is going to be shown to you that a virgin is going to give birth to a son, namely the Messiah, so that the promise that was given to the house of David that a Messiah was going to come from him, right, is still going to be fulfilled. But the
Okay,
boy,
you're ignoring context.
no, you're ignoring grammar.
What's the deadline for the son? It's very simple.
The
This
son that's being talked about is the one
No,
that's
it's not.
talked about in verse 3.
No, it's not. Because
Yes, it is.
Wait, what does the name She or Yashav mean? What does that mean in Hebrew?
That means not. What does that have to do with anything?
Because it's a sign. It means the remnant
What
shall
does Elijah's
return.
name mean? What does Isaiah's name mean? That doesn't mean
Great,
that they're
what
not
is it?
talking about
Great,
actual
great.
people.
What does Emmanuel mean?
It means God with us, but it's talking
Great,
about an
why?
actual
Hold on.
son.
Why? Hold on. Why in context? Think for a second.
It's-
Why? It's not a separate son. You know why? I can prove it to you. Look, you're talking about
Prove it.
grammar, by the
Please
way.
prove it,
Yeah,
prove
I
it.
will. And you're talking about grammar and proving it by grammar.
Prove it,
So
prove
I'm
it.
going to prove it to you by grammar.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. Okay, great. So the Hebrew in 7:14 to 16, it says hara veyoledet bain. This child is to be conceived and born. So it's a future thing that is going to happen. The child will be born. Great. It's a future tense. It's a future tense prophecy, which states before the child knows, which is a future tense. This is directly after. If it was switching into a different son, it would not be talking about that son.
hold on,
There
hold
is
on, hold
no
on.
switch of the son.
Is there a switch in whether the pronouns being used are second person plural back to first person singular?
There's no switch between the sons. No,
Lie again.
no, I'm not.
Between
Show-
verse
show-
15 and verse 16.
Great, let's go over 15. Let's go.
Go ahead, man.
We can get this up. Great. Okay, let's pull it up. Great. So, verse 14. Therefore, the Lord Himself will give you a sign. Behold, we know that entire thing. Verse 15.
And wait, the you in verse 14 is the second person plural, right?
Therefore, the Lord Himself will give you a sign.
A second person plural, huh?
Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead.
Great. We agree with that. I'm talking about the sons.
Yeah.
Behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and he shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, verse 15. So, verse 15 is describing the early childhood of that boy. Do you know how old Isaiah's son is here? How old?
He's young.
Great. How young? How old?
I think he's like 3.
Okay, great. Verse 15. Curds and honey shall he eat until he knows to refuse the evil and choose the good.
Mm-hmm.
So he refers back to what's introduced in 14. If he was talking about his son,
No.
hold on. If it was talking about his son back then, it would refer to his son. Here it's referring to, in this verse, that's directly connected to verse 14.
All I need to know is that in verse 15, he's using second person plural pronouns. In verse 16, when he says the land of the two kings you dread, is that a singular pronoun being used?
No, hold on. Who's the you here? Who's the you here?
In verse 16,
Yep.
I'm saying that he's going to be referring back to Ahaz because
Okay,
in
great.
verse
No,
14
no.
and verse 15, he's referring to the entire nation.
Great, but here's your problem with that claim. To say that this verse is not talking about Ahaz, but the verse previously is not, is an issue. Because when it says, why do you weary men and why do you weary the Lord? Who is wearying that? Who is wearying God here? Who refused to ask for the sign?
Israel.
Not all of Israel.
All right, so look, you're importing that the wearying of God is talking about refusing the sign.
Obviously.
That's not what the text says.
So it's exactly what it says. What's the alternative? Okay, hold on. Where in the
The
text do we see?
alternative? Have you read Isaiah chapter 1?
Yes. So let me ask
Okay.
you.
Have you read Isaiah chapter 6?
Yes. So who is refusing
Okay.
here?
All
Hold on.
literally
Who is-
all of God's people are wearying God. That's what Isaiah starts out
hold
talking
on,
about.
Hold on. Who is God's people? It's very simple.
Israel, the children of Abraham.
All right, came out for a second. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So what's referenced here on who's wearying specifically, it's the house of David. I can show you now, evidently in previous chapters, that the house of David is just the royal line. Do you want me to prove that to you, or are you going to accept that?
Either way, when he's talking to the house of David, he is speaking to very specific people. He bypasses Ahaz because Ahaz said, hold on. Ahaz says, I don't want to sign. He does sound like McLovin. Ahaz says, I don't want to sign. So now he's talking to the entire messianic line of no one needs to worry about the Messiah not coming or the messianic lineage being depleted, because he's going to give a sign to the messianic lineage that it's going to be fulfilled in the future, that a son is going to be born of a virgin.
Great. Which king of the lineage or anyone in the lineage right now is wearying God? Which one? Simple. Which one is wearying God?
Which one is wearying God?
Which one in the lineage of the house of David is wearying God?
Dang near all the kings have wearied God.
Oh, so the Messiah in the future is wearying God right now? In the future? While this event is happening?
No, the Messiah is being talked about.
Great. So
the Messiah is the Messiah is the one that is going to come.
Great. I agree that there's a son to come.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I'm saying, hold on.
Who's the one that was wearying God?
Before we move on, I'm saying that son to come that's being talked about in verse 13, 14, and 15, right? Yeah, in verse 13, 14, and 15 is the future messianic king. The son that is talked about in verse 16 is the son that God told Isaiah to bring before Ahaz, which is why the pronouns switch back from referencing or referring to the house of David back to talking to Ahaz when he goes back to the singular and uses singular pronouns.
So who in the house of David is wearying God other than Ahaz? It's a simple answer, by the way, because you agree with me the house of David is the royal line. So who in the royal line other than Ahaz is wearying God right now? Who?
Well, I'm not understanding your question. What's your question?
When Ahaz refuses the son, God says, "O house of David, you weary men, and now you weary your God." So who here is wearying God? We agree the house of David is the royal line. So who in the royal line here is wearying God? Is it the Messiah in the future? Is it David? Is it David to come? Is it people in the past? Who is wearying God now in this moment?
When Isaiah is talking to the entire house of Israel,
that's not what he says. The house of David.
I mean, when he's talking to the entire house of David, he's not just speaking to Ahaz.
Okay, hold on. Let's say we agree with that. Let's say I agree with your claim. Let's say
cool.
For the sake of the argument, I agree it's not just talking about Ahaz, it's talking about the whole royal line.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense because the only one wearying God here is Ahaz. So who in the royal line is wearying God?
The entire house of David, the royal line. If you read 1st and 2nd Kings, you would see all of these kings, and 1st and 2nd Samuel, right? You would see these kings after David and Solomon that are absolutely wicked. So these are the kings, the house of David that has pushed, and you read this at the end of 2nd Samuel, by the way, that has pushed Israel to the point of being about to be destroyed. That's how we get to this point. How they're going to be overtaken, or at the end of 2nd Samuel, they're overtaken, right? So all of these kings have wearied God to where it's gotten them into the point to where they have now been exiled. Isaiah is talking at this point. So the question is whether or not the house of David has been forsaken and the Messiah will never come.
That's not the question.
So the entire house of David, all of these line of kings have wearied God.
They have not, by the way. There's kings before Ahaz. They're not all weary God. That's not
no. There's 7. There's 7, maybe 8 that actually did righteousness in the eyes of the Lord.
We agree with that.
Yes,
Great.
exactly. All the other kings, about 16, actually did. So when it's talking about them, they're talking about them in general because these kings pop up too few in number. So
And again,
talking
you're
about them in general.
confusing the purpose
Hold
of the
on,
sign.
hold on. So now, in reference to this messianic lineage, God is speaking, saying that this messianic lineage is going to be preserved, and we're going to know it when the virgin conceives and gives birth to God.
That's not the purpose of the sign, though.
That's literally the purpose of the sign. Now,
No, it's not. There's no
because
contextuality. Hold on. There's no contextuality anywhere through Isaiah 7 where you will find talking about a Messiah coming. Anywhere
here,
when you talk about a
show me
sign.
this. Hold on. Show me in verse 11. Show me in verse 11 and verse 12 when he speaks to Ahaz, does he use the second person plural pronouns?
Again, we agree that
I need a yes or no if he does
no,
or not.
we agree that he uses you, obviously, in direct second person when he's speaking to Ahaz. But when Ahaz refuses, hold on.
But when he says you in verses 13 and 14, when he says you, that is the second person plural. When he's talking to Ahaz and says you in verse 16, when he says the land whose kings you dread, that is first person singular.
Yeah, so which boy is being talked about here?
Verse 16, it's the boy that God told. In verse 16, it's the boy that God told Isaiah to bring before Ahaz.
No, it's not.
Yes.
No, it's not. Because again, that sign.
Hey, here, tell me this. Why God tell him to bring that boy?
Yeah, he's a different sign. Because his Hebrew name means a remnant shall return.
No. Why did God? That makes no sense. Why did God specifically
100%.
tell Isaiah to bring his son before Ahaz?
I just told you it's a different sign. A remnant shall return. It's a different sign.
A sign of what?
That a remnant of Israel will return to serve God correctly. This is shown everywhere, by the way. If you want context for that.
How is him pulling up with his son that sign?
Okay, you can say the same thing. So how does Emmanuel mean God with us? Because they're both there to show that God is with Israel.
How does Emmanuel mean God with us?
No, it's not what I said. I said you can say the same thing and say, well, what's the purpose of God saying that Emmanuel will come? What does God with us mean? Well, contextually, it means that God is with the house of David and they will not fall to Israel. So whoever is wearying God in this verse is Ahaz. He's the one who refuses the sign. That's tiring God. God is offering Ahaz directly to ask for a sign which will console him in the house of David.
You think that a regular kid is Emmanuel?
A regular kid?
Yeah, like you think that the kid that's talked about in verse 14 is just a regular kid?
What do you mean by regular?
All right, it doesn't matter. You haven't dealt with the fact that we can tell contextually in chapter 7 when Isaiah or God through Isaiah is speaking directly to Ahaz and when he's speaking to the house of David as a whole. And when he's speaking to the house of David as a whole, he gives a very particular sign which Ahaz rejects. And when he's speaking to Ahaz in particular, you can tell the change in the Hebrew very clearly, and he gives that sign, which is why yes, there is, which is why the sign of he shall eat curds and honey in verse 15, and then it seems like that's going to be repeated, and he knows when to refuse good and choose the evil. Right, so he shall eat curds and honey when he knows how to refuse the good and choose the evil. Refuse the evil and choose the good. For before the boy knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, and it shifts and talking about another boy.
No, it's still about that boy. Where's it shift from the boy? Where's it shift?
Oh my God. When in the Hebrew, it changes from talking to the entire house of David
represents the house of
Ahaz.
Who represents the house of David? Who is wearying God in this moment?
Ahaz represents the house of David.
Great. Who's wearying God?
But God bypasses Ahaz and gives this promise to the entire house of David.
No. Well, what's the purpose of the sign, though? You keep forgetting the purpose.
That the Messiah is still going to come.
There's no idea of messianic anywhere here. There's no reference to a Messiah or someone to save Israel save the entire land of Judah and bring them to redemption anywhere here. The only reference to a sign.
What's the purpose of the house of David? Is the purpose of the house of David not to usher in the Messiah? That's
not the only purpose to the house of David.
I didn't say that, but that's that's what David and the promise that was given to David. That's the messianic promise that's given
No,
to David in 2 Samuel
promise
chapter
given
7.
hold on. The promise given to David, which we agree with, is that a root from him will come and that will be the Messiah. But to Ahaz here,
In 2 Samuel chapter 7, the promise that is given to him is the messianic promise.
Again, we agree with that. That's not. We're not.
So when it's talking about the house of David, it's talking about the line in which
No,
the
it's
Messiah is
not.
going to come from.
Okay, you want me to give you 20 other examples where it talks about the house of David, where it's not talking about the Messiah? I'll give you 20 examples. You want me to do that?
No,
20.
It's not necessary.
No, it is, because you're saying if it says the house of David, it's automatically the Messiah. And I'm going to show you.
It's showing that God is going to preserve the house of David, and we will know that it's been preserved.
Preserve them from what? From what? From the invasion. The invasion of Israel and Ephraim. That's the purpose of the sign, to show them that they will not be invaded and destroyed for that time. Now, we're going to go over the grammar with you, because you said that the grammar changes and it's obvious it's different. We're going to go over that. So I'm going to show you how it's not the way you're saying that. So let's go over it, actually. Verse 14, we have ha'alma, agree with, the verb v'yoledet, shall bear, and the object ben, a son. So this is the first introduction of the boy. Is that the young woman, or you want to say virgin, go ahead, shall bear a son. It's the introduction of the boy. Now in verse 15, you have the verb yochel, he shall eat. It has no subject. There's no new subject here in the word yochel. There's not a single change in the subject. The Hebrew grammar, first of all, the subject automatically refers back to the last explicitly mentioned subject. This is a fact. In Hebrew grammar, the subject will refer back to the last explicitly mentioned subject. So if we look here, there is no new subject here. It says he shall eat. There's no distinction in the subject. Now, hold on. Now, the new child is introduced here. So the one that's introduced here with the curds and the honey, which is given, by the way, talking about in 15, the subject does not change in the words. The wording of which we can agree with from the house of David to Ahaz changes. And that doesn't change the purpose of the sign, because the one who is wearying God, the one who is tiring God at this moment is Ahaz. When he refuses to ask for a sign, he is tiring God. So for you to say, well, because it says house of David, it's the Messiah, makes no sense contextually. Find me anywhere in 7, from 7 to 1, where there's any reference to a Messiah establishing eternal peace of third temple or anything messianic.
That's not necessary. What are you
No,
talking
it is
about?
necessary.
No, it's
because we
not.
see it. It is, because we see in other chapters.
Why would I need every single thing to be laid out in one chapter? That's not how anything
Not every single
works.
thing, but you need context to prove it. There's no context here that proves your point. Not a single piece of context. You're trying to say, well, because it's switched to the house of David. Okay, so hold on. Does switching it to the house of David mean it's the Messiah? Is that true?
No, it's talking about the messianic line.
Okay, so it's talking about the line of David, which we agree with. Who in the line of David right now that refused the sign to God is wearying God? Who is that person? Who is the one who represents the house of David, the king of David? Who's the one who's the king?
The entire house of David is wearying God.
No, who's the king right now? Who is wearying God?
Ahaz is the king that refuses the sign.
So Ahaz represents the house of David at this moment, which is why Isaiah is coming to him, because he's the one who decides whether the sign is coming or the sign is not, or what's going on. So he's coming to him to ask him.
So what do you think the sign is?
The sign is a young woman will bear a son, and his name will be called Emmanuel. Now I'm going to show you.
Hold on. Why is that a sign that's as high as the heaven and as low as Sheol?
No, he said, "Ask from the highs of the heaven or the depths of Sheol," and he didn't ask.
If we're going to use context, when you continue reading, like in Isaiah chapter 38, with King Hezekiah, and Hezekiah gets a sign, Hezekiah gets a miraculous sign.
The miraculous sign here is 7:16 when it says, "Before the boy knows."
No, you said that. Hold on, no. You said the sign.
No. We are talking about
No. You said the sign was a young woman giving birth to a kid.
And his name is what? Hold on. His name is what?
And his name is Emmanuel.
Great. Now the next verse in 7:16 says.
Wait. No.
I know. You love to ignore verses.
I need to know what's miraculous about that sign.
The miraculous thing about that sign is that before the boy knows how to choose between good and evil, those two lands will be deserted. That's the miraculous thing. Is that in a very short amount of time, before the boy knows how to choose between those things, the lands will be deserted that they fear. That's what's miraculous about it.
So
and that's evidence.
That's a different sign. You said
No,
the
it's
sign.
not.
You said the sign is that a virgin or a young woman is going to give birth to a son. That's what you said. You said that full stop.
No, but his
A
name will
young
be
woman.
called.
Hold on. You said the sign is a young woman is going to give birth to a son. Cool. Now, when Isaiah uses the word sign, it refers to a miraculous thing when we read in context.
It's not.
I'm
Okay,
asking
hold on.
for the miracle of a
A
young woman
miraculous thing
giving
is
birth
not. Hold on,
to
hold
a
on.
son.
Great.
What's the miracle?
A miraculous thing, which was I stated again in 7:16, is that those two kingdoms will be deserted. For you to say it's a virgin birth is a stretch when the word in Hebrew there is not virgin.
It's
That's just
Alma.
lying.
Can you show me where Alma in the Hebrew refers to a woman that has had sex?
Yeah. Oh, easily.
Okay.
Let's do that. I'll be happy to do that for you.
Okay.
But you agree though that Betula means virgin, right? You agree with that?
Yeah, but so does Alma.
I'm saying that you also agree Betula means virgin in that sense.
Yeah, it does, but so does Alma.
Okay, great. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to give you evidence where a young woman is not a virgin, and it calls her an Alma.
I'm talking about Alma.
Yeah, I'm going to show you where an Alma is not a virgin.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me go over this. Okay, great. So the most famous one is Proverbs 30:18-20. Now I'm going to read it to you.
Yep.
I'm going to show you how this person's not a virgin, and then you can give your input and whatever you want to do on that. So we have three things are too wondrous for me and concealed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Four I do not understand. Number one, the way of an eagle in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
the way of a snake on a rock, and the way of a ship in the heart of the sea, and the way of a man with an Alma. Verse 20, so is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong. So, here we have three things that are compared to an adulterous woman. Why can't the way of a man and Alma be a virgin? It's very simple. All these things leave no trace. If you were to make the argument, well, all these things are actually just wondrous and beautiful things, they're not about leaving any trace, that's an issue, because there's nothing wondrous about an adulterous woman. It's obviously something that is concealed.
You said Proverbs what?
Proverbs 30:18-20.
Yeah. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship on high seas, and the way of a man with a Alma, right?
Yes. So none of these things leave a trace. This is compared to an adulterous woman. In verse 20.
Where do you get that it's compared to an adulterous woman?
Yeah, when it says, so is the way of an adulterous woman. That's literally the word that says.
Mine says, this is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong.
Yeah, it's actually so is the way, an adulterous woman. I can pull it up in Hebrew if you want, where it says so is the way.
Where does it say that? Either way, how is an adulterous woman not leaving any trace?
Yeah, very simple. It says it in the verse. What does it say? She eats, wipes her mouth, and says, I've done no wrong. So she consumes, in other words, does the act, wipes her mouth, covers it up, says, I've done no wrong. She's not leaving a trace of her actions. Now, why? Now, why? And this is obvious, by the way, if you actually think about what the verse is saying. But then you have to ask, why is that Alma with the man? Why is that not a virgin? Because very clearly, a virgin leaves a trace. And I can show you in Deuteronomy. The trace a virgin leaves, the most common trace they use, is blood. So for this Alma to be with a man and not leave a trace, and her to be a virgin, is impossible.
Brother,
this woman who is sleeping with the man does not leave a trace and therefore is not a virgin.
Brother, verse 18. Okay, here, I'm gonna show. It's talking about, it can't be talking about wondrous things. Verse 18 literally says, 3 things are too wonderful for me, for I do not understand. Hold on. Too wonderful for me, for I do not understand. So he's talking about wondrous.
Not wonderful.
Sure. So he's talking about wondrous things, 4 in particular. Now these are the 4 wondrous things that he's talking about. The way of an eagle in the sky.
And concealed, by the way.
The way of it, you said what?
And concealed things. The Hebrew word nafla'u means concealed. Nafal means concealed.
When he says, I do not understand?
Yeah, nafla'u.
So that I cannot see?
Yeah,
or I cannot comprehend?
Yeah, but also concealed in that sense. Not comprehensible, and concealed. It's the Hebrew word for concealed, naflu.
Yeah, that means he doesn't understand.
At the same time, yeah, well, you say not visible.
That's why they're wondrous. So
Great. So
it's
read
not
it
no, it's
as
not visible. It's about not being able to comprehend.
it's set. The Hebrew word is concealed. It's not fla'um.
It is not. It doesn't only mean concealed.
No, it has both properties. We agree with that. It's concealed. You can
Yeah.
say it's
So
concealed in the way where
yes.
it's
So
wonderful.
you can read it in context when he says right before three things are too wonderful for me.
No, not wonderful. Wondrous. Is an adulterous woman wonderful?
No, he's
Wondrous?
not talking about that.
No,
You're
he
reading
does.
something
He does in verse
else. He's
20.
not talking about
He
that.
does in verse 20. He says, "Kain derech isha."
Bro, have you ever read the Proverbs before?
Oh no, I have. So
Okay,
in verse
in
20,
a proverb, they would talk
Hold on.
about one thing in one verse and another thing in another
Oh,
verse.
great. Hold on. So in verse 20, when it says, "So is the way as an adulterous woman," it's
This is the
comparing
way-
it to that. No, not this. So it's Cain. So is the way of an adulterous woman.
Yes, they use this language all throughout the Proverbs.
And it's connecting both.
No, what? In
Yes,
verse
it is.
What about an adulterous woman is wondrous?
Great. It's wondrous in the sense of concealment. This is evidenced by
Oh,
all those
you
things
guys are
here.
ridiculous.
All those things here
So
don't
you think?
leave a
Hold on,
trace.
wait. Let me. You think adultery is wondrous?
You don't understand what it means by wondrous.
No.
It means
I
by
just
wondrous
need
by
you.
concealed.
I just need you to answer. You think adultery is wondrous?
No, I believe by your interpretation, if you say adultery is wondrous, that makes no sense. That's why you can't say
That's what.
that.
That's what it says, bro. It's
No,
just
but
what it
again,
says.
you're reading English without the Hebrew, so you
Alright.
don't understand the.
I got you.
Yeah. Search up what is nafla'u mean in Hebrew. What does that mean?
Hold on.
Nafla means conceal.
You said Proverbs 30.
18 to 20.
Yep, there are three things that are too wonderful for me or wondrous for me, four that I do not know.
Yeah. So what are the things listed?
So, as a matter of fact, hold on. What word are you saying is concealed? The four that I do not know?
No, nafla'u.
So,
So when it says in
here, wait, what? Where are you reading from?
Hebrew,
Where?
Safari.
Safaria?
Yeah.
All right. Because you said, you read the scripture, there are three things too wondrous for me, four that are concealed from me, is
Yeah,
what you were saying, right?
No, that's not what I said. I said the three things are too wondrous for me. Four I do not understand. Agree with that.
Okay, so here, hold on. I'm gonna pull up your
But your
Safaria.
claim that 20 isn't connected makes no sense.
I'm gonna pull up Safaria. Proverbs 30. Here. Okay.
It's not a new proverb, verse 20. It's
all right,
concluding
so Proverbs 30 says, three things are beyond me, four I cannot fathom.
Yeah.
Is this
beyond
fine?
Yeah,
three
we
things
agree
that
with
are
that,
beyond me, four I cannot fathom. This is cool?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. So we're gonna count, right? How an eagle makes his way over the sky. Is that one?
Yep.
How a snake makes his way over a rock. That's two.
Yep.
How a ship makes his way through the high seas. That's three.
Yep.
How a man makes his way with a maiden. That's four.
Yes, you agree.
So these are the things that are
20.
beyond him.
Yeah, now go to 20.
Okay. Such is the way of an adulteress. She eats, wipes her mouth, and says, I have done no wrong.
Great. Is 20 connected? Is 20 connected to 21? Keep reading.
Is 20 connected to 21?
Is 20 connected to 21?
A slave who becomes a king, a scoundrel stated with food, a loathsome woman gets married, a slave girl who supplants her mistress. Four are among the tiniest things on earth, yet I don't, these could just be sayings here.
Yeah, so it's 20 connected to 21.
22 and 23 are connected, and 24.
Yeah, so it's 20, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's 20 connected to 21.
I mean, it could be. I don't know.
No, I'm saying, is it connected? Are those two together?
I'm saying it could be.
So they're not. So the riddle in 18 to 19, which we agree with, that those are the four things. We agree with that. The way Eagle and Sky, we agree those
Yes,
are the four
so
things.
you have to understand that these are the
this
things.
is a riddle. This is a riddle. He's giving the explanation here. He's saying The
Oh
wave
my
of
God.
an eagle in the sky, wave of a snake on the rock, wave of a ship on the heart of the sea, and the wave of a man with an almond. Those are the two things that are too wondrous, concealed, whatever way you want to put it. And then the explanation, how it fits now and how it makes sense, how he explains it is, so is the way, so he compares both of them, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I've done no wrong. All of these things do not leave a trace. That's the point.
That's not the point. That's a
Yes,
hell of a
so it's
stretch.
20 connected to 21 then. If we go by your statement, it's 20 connected to 21.
What does that have to do? What does that have to do with the scriptures that
Because
we're
you're trying
talking
to say
about?
20 is separate from them, which is not true. It's solving the riddle, which are these things that are too wondrous and too concealed. It's
That
solving
20
that.
is separate?
Wait on. Do you agree 20 is connected to 18 and 19? It's very simple.
That 20 is connected to 18. The earth shudders at 3 things, at 4
No,
which
no,
it
no.
cannot bear.
No, so is the way of an adulterous woman. Do you agree that's connected to 18 and 19?
That's 19. That's verse 20 is something different.
So, okay, we'll just, maybe I'm reading off the wrong thing, but verse 20, which is my thing, is so is the way of an adulterous woman. Do you believe that's connected to those signs? That they're connected? Very
To
simple.
the things about an eagle in the sky?
Yeah, is it connected to those things? Is it solving the riddle?
No.
Great, so is 20 connected to 21?
It's not solving a riddle.
Yes, it is. So is 20 connected to 21 then?
Is 20 connected? The earth shudders at 3 things that it cannot bear?
Yeah, is that connected to the adulterous woman?
1, 2. It doesn't need to be connected to anything.
No, he's not just going to say a random saying out of
That's
nowhere.
literally what Proverbs is.
No,
Oh my
it's not.
God.
That's how much you don't know the Bible, by the way.
Oh my.
If you think it's just random things that don't connect to each other, that's just wrong. Yes, it's poetic, but it's poetic, and obviously it's like poetry. We agree with that, but it's poetry for that. We agree that it's poetic. It doesn't mean it's random.
First of all, yes, some of them are. When you get to, I believe it's Proverbs 28.
No, it's not random.
You literally just get the sayings of the wise.
No, we agree with that.
We agree. Yes, that's what it is.
Great.
So you have things that aren't directly connected to the previous statement.
No, we don't have. No, we agree with that. That like you could have, for example, a paragraph here or verses here that are not connected to the other paragraphs. But itself here, it's not just splitting random sayings. It's going to say in verse 20, so is the way of an adulterous woman, and then it's going to bring completely something else. No, the so here, the Cain, which means so, such is the way, is connecting both verses. It's not a separation. And by the way, that's what's solving the riddle itself. He's giving the things that are too wondrous.
So would the adulterous woman be the 5th thing?
The adulterous woman is the thing that's compared to all of them.
Is it the 5th thing?
It's what's compared to all of them.
Is it the 5th thing?
There's no 5th thing. There's 4. It's what's compared to that.
So how can the adulterous woman be another thing that is too wonderful for him to
because
know
it's not what
or
it means by
understand?
wondrous.
That's literally what it means. Oh my God.
It's not wondrous. It's wondrous in the sense it's concealed because not.
It makes absolutely no sense. This dude literally says, oh, there's 3 things that's too wondrous for me, 4 that I can't even fathom. And he goes on and explains these wondrous things like an eagle in the sky or a serpent in a rock or a ship on the sea. And then he's like, hey, I'm going to compare this to sin. let's go ahead and compare this to flat out sin. It just makes no sense, bro. Oh my God. And then for the previous conversation, if you guys weren't able to follow, hopefully, did you guys understand the thing in Isaiah chapter 7? Let me know if you understood the thing in Isaiah 7. Let me know if you guys understood the argument of Isaiah chapter 7. You don't think I was receiving his view? His view just isn't supported by the Hebrew in Isaiah 7. Oh, my fault, Dion. Yeah, it's on YouTube. Did you guys understand what was going on in Isaiah 7? Just let me know. Yeah, it's 3 hours. Dion, you're not loading up. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, so there's a lot. So Proverbs is just a compilation of sayings. So like if you read any Proverbs book, each one doesn't have to connect to the one before it. So when they're talking in Proverbs chapter 30 about things that are too wondrous for them to know, here, right. So it means like that word in the Hebrew, it means wondrous, wonder, marvelous, extraordinary, impossible. Here, like this is what the word means in the Hebrew. To do something wonderful, be too difficult, right? Miraculous acts, extraordinary, or be surpassing. This is the ways in which is used. This word is used. So for wonder, um, this word is used 20 out of 73 times. Or special or wondrous. So you see the predominant meaning is marvelous. Marvelous, wondrous, or wondrously, or wonderful is over 75% of what this word means. Right? Marvelous works. That's what the word means. If you're gonna call adultery a marvelous work, then hey man, have at it. If you want to go all that length to try to just deny Christ, then go ahead. Um, but I'm not willing to do that. And then it just goes on to say, so is the way of an adulterous woman. But if you actually read Proverbs, this is logos. If you read Proverbs, particularly like chapter 1 through chapter 8, it's presented as like a father talking to a son. And they talk about adultery all the time. And an adulterous woman is like to be feared. Like stay away from her. It's not like a wondrous thing. She like destroys the things. Like she leaves a path of destruction. She might not accept accountability, but she has done wrong and has left a trace. Yeah, so I don't know if I'll be accepting. Oh, my fault. Let's see. What's up, bro?
My thing lagged.
Okay.
You first let me up. Yeah, bro. Oh man, that was gnarly, bro. That was a Jew?
Yeah.
Of course. Look, bro, I would have just asked him, is Genesis 3:15 messianic? If he says no, then give him rabbis who say yes, and then you ask him, brother, can you point to me anywhere in the Bible where a woman has seed? Could you point that to me, brother?
And they're not gonna be able to.
Say again?
And they're not gonna be able to.
Yeah, no, bro. But the thing is, bro, the way God ordained women don't have semen.
Yeah.
So how is this woman in Genesis 3:15, how is she having a seed? Because it's miraculous. Bro, fries in the bag. Fries in the bag. Greek Septuagint before the Hebrew says virgin. Fries in the bag. Fries in the bag.
No, we didn't even get that far. Like the virgin was like an afterthought. It was more going to show. Oh, for anybody who wants to know more about that view about the kid in Isaiah chapter 7, um, you can go to the Moody Messianic Handbook on Isaiah chapter 7, and he talks about all of the objections and everything. So you go to the Moody Messianic Handbook in Isaiah chapter 7, and you could just read that if you want to read more on it. I'm finna go. I'm tired. I'm exhausted
From what?
from
Let me see
this.
your hands. Let me see your hands, boy. Let me see them hands. You got soft hands. You ain't
Nah.
out here, boy. You got soft hands, man.
I'm tired. So I'm finna go. God
Hey,
bless
God
y'all.
bless, man.
God bless you too, man. God bless you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the blessed Holy Spirit. I pray that all of you are well. Oh my days. My fault. I was not looking at the YouTube chat. Let me see. Uh okay, did y'all understand? Hopefully you guys understood what's the name? Everything that was going on. Just to recap, my voice is really low. Check, check, check. So I'm gonna just get close right now. So as a recap, right, of the last guest, pretty much what was being said was in the book of Matthew, when it details Jesus's birth, in like Matthew chapter 1. As a matter of fact, we'll go right real quick. Oh, cool. I'm glad that it was clear. So, just for anybody else, right? In Matthew chapter 1, he's like, I'm not a Christian because Matthew says that there is a prophecy that can't possibly be Jesus, right? So, in Matthew chapter 1, he says, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. Now, there's different ways in which you can argue this point. One of the ways being the road that I took down. Another way in which you can argue this point is that the way in which prophecy was understood in the first century. And the way in which prophecy was understood is not always, this is only in reference to a future event, but it's just the way in which God acted before, he is acting now, and then they would use that to say that prophecy has been fulfilled. So what we would call typological prophecies, they would just refer to as prophecies. So when we see God acting the same way that he did before, we'll just call that a prophecy, and that's the way in which it was looked at. So you could take that road as well. Now, because I don't get to argue it much, I'm like, why not? You know? So we'll go back to this verse, right? Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. And he is saying that this son that is being talked about is specifically talking about this time period. Now, there's different people who say Isaiah 7 is dual fulfillment, which means that yes, it's fulfilled here, but the later and greater fulfillment is going to come in the future, right? So this son that is going to be born of this virgin, and they say that this virgin here means just young woman. It doesn't necessitate a woman that's never had sex. So behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. Now, on the lesser point, virgin, which means the Hebrew word alma, does mean young woman, but it usually refers to a young woman of marriageable age. So usually this is referring to a woman that has not been married, right? Which means if they hasn't been married, then normally they have not had sex, right? It refers to a marriageable girl or a youthful spouse, right? So usually it's referring, and now when we see this word being used, it refers to someone who hasn't had sex. And we don't see examples of this word being used to refer to someone who has had sex. So when you look at this word alma in the Hebrew scriptures, you don't see it, especially explicitly, being used to refer to someone who has had sex. No. Now, the scripture that he was trying to bring up, this is on the lesser point, in regards to show that this word is used, was Proverbs chapter 30. And maybe if you saw that, but in Proverbs chapter 30, it talks about things that are too wonderful. Verse 19, my fault. It talks about things that are too wonderful for him to understand, right? 4 things that he doesn't understand. And he lists these things, right? The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a virgin. And then he goes on to say, this is the way of an adulteress. Talking about this, clarifying this, right? She eats and wipes her mouth and says, I have done no wrong. Now, what he was trying to argue is that these 2 verses are connected, and they're making a comparison to the way of an adulteress who doesn't leave a trace. The way that a ship on high seas doesn't leave a trace, which you can argue that it cuts through the water, so it leaves a trace in that way. I guess you might want to say a lasting trace, but to say that an adulteress doesn't leave a lasting trace is ridiculous. So obviously here he's talking about things that are just wonderful. They're amazing, right? He's marveling at God's creation. And then he goes on to talk about the way of an adulterous woman who does her deed and says, I haven't done any wrong. That's what's being talked about. An adulterous woman goes, does her deed, and says, I ain't do nothing. That's her. But he's trying to say that they're connecting. So when it says the way of a man with a virgin, he's correlating that with an adulterous woman. So obviously an adulterous woman has had sex. So he's trying to say that this woman is this woman. That's what he's trying to say, which it just isn't, it's not supported, nor does it make sense. In the greater context, though, the argument that I gave in regards to Isaiah talking about 2 different kids, right? God tells Isaiah to go before Ahaz, and he specifically tells Isaiah to go meet Ahaz with his son, with Isaiah's son, Shear-Jashub, right? So cool. He tells him to meet Ahaz with his son. Now, why is that important? It becomes important, and you see this very clearly in the Hebrew. So in verse 11, or starting in verse 10, the Lord speaks to Ahaz, ask a sign of your Lord God, of the Lord your God, let it be as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven. So he says, ask for a miraculous sign. But Ahaz says, I'm not finna ask. I will not put the Lord to test. Now, people go in to as to why Ahaz does this. It's out of arrogance, or he just doesn't really care. He's not a good king, whatever the case may be. But he declines the sign. So then God then addresses the entire house of David. Every time you see it here highlighted, I just did this, but every time you see it here highlighted, when you go to the Hebrew, this is in the second person plural. So here we can we'll go to Bible Hub just to show you easily. Chapter 7, verse 14. What's the name? You see, so therefore the Lord himself will get, oh, my fault. Let's go to verse 13 first. And he said, here, this verb here, notice if you can see, and he said, here. right? I don't know if you can see that, but this little MP at the back end is masculine plural. So when he's speaking to Ahaz, he speaks to Ahaz in the singular, right? In like verse 11, he speaks to Ahaz in the singular, second person masculine singular, right? Your God. As for yourself, second person masculine singular. He's directly talking to Ahaz. But from verse 13, you see that he stops speaking in a second person singular, and he starts speaking in the masculine or second person plural, right? Is it, oh David, is it a small thing for you, second person masculine plural, to weary men? So the way in which he's referencing Ahaz in the verses before, he's not referring to that person. He's not referring to a collective, right? Also, will you weary, second person masculine plural. Then you move on to verse 14. The Lord himself will give you. We just saw him use you in verse 11 and 12. You, second person masculine plural. Still speaking to the house of David. And then when you go down, he's talking about the kid. And then in verse 16, it shifts back. Therefore, before the child shall refuse the evil and choose the good, the two nations by which you dread, what is that? Second person masculine singular. So the argument that is made, especially in the Moody Messianic Handbook, is that this is a shift in speakers, or in the person who's being referred to, where he goes to giving the sign to the house of David, and then in verse 16 he goes back to talking to Ahaz, and you can see that in the pronouns that he's using. And so verse 13 and 14 is the long-term prophecy that is given to the entire house of David. And verse 16 talks about the short-term prophecy. 13, 14, and 15 is the long-term prophecy that a virgin, which is a sign as high as heaven, is going to give birth to a son. Right. Now for Ahaz, the sign for him is just that the kings aren't going to overtake him. God is just letting him know that, hey, I'm just letting you know that before this boy, the boy that God told him to bring, grows up, before this boy grows, and the boy that's talked about is the one that God told him to bring to Ahaz, because he knew that he would reject the sign. So before this boy, and you could kind of picture Isaiah being like, before this boy knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, before this boy, who's 3, right? And I think they come to like of age at 12 years old. Before this boy knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land whose kings you dread will be deserted. Does that make sense? It seems like you guys are having your own conversation, but just let me know if that makes sense. That's the argument for Isaiah chapter 7. And then it goes on to say that this same kid is talked about in Isaiah chapter 9, when it says that a son is given and this son is going to be mighty God. This is the same kid. This is the same kid as well that is talked about in Micah chapter 5, which says, among you from the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from old, from ancient days, or from eternity. Wow, it doesn't say virgin in the Hebrew Bible. The word Alma implies virgin, which is why when those Hebrew scholars translated into Greek, they use the word parentos, which specifically means virgin. So you can see that the way in which they understood it, even in that context, before the incarnation of our Lord, they understood it to mean virgin. And we don't have a clear example in scripture where Alma does not mean a woman who hasn't had sex. We don't have an instance in scripture where Alma does not mean a woman that has had sex, is just young. The best argument that they have is the Proverbs 30, and it just doesn't follow. So that's that. I appreciate you guys. If you guys are in here, please like the live. Thank you for being here. Hopefully I was able to explain a couple things. They said young unmarried women are typically referred to as Alma, not virgin. Yeah, an unmarried woman, especially in that culture, is a virgin. It's like, you don't need to say that. You don't need to say a virgin unmarried woman. You would just say, oh, she's unmarried, because the thing that's expected is that if she's not married, then you're a virgin. Otherwise, you have brought shame upon your household. Yeah, and you could die. So, all right, man. I'm finna get out of here. Alma in Hebrew is translated as virgin in Genesis 24, the wife of Isaac. Exactly. She was unmarried. She was a virgin. She was a virgin. She had not been with a man. She was never with a man. Oh my God. I don't understand how, like, um uh, mm-hmm. Here, it's right here. I was looking for the scripture, my fault. So, before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born of Bethuel, the son of Milchiah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. Whom no man had known. This word. So and this is the word, Bethula, right? Which they want to use. And they clarify, yeah, she's a Bethula whom no man has known. So when it uses Alma to refer to her, it's still referring to a young woman who hasn't had intercourse. Like, I don't understand. I understand what's so hard to understand. There's just two ways in which you could talk about that girl. And you see exactly what he's asking for. Let the virgin who comes out and draws water, to whom I shall say, please give me a little water. And he uses the word alma. And when he uses the word alma, he's referring to the one who has not known a man. Yeah. All right, bro. I'm gonna head out. God bless y'all. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the blessed Holy Spirit, I pray to all of you well.